You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 8th part of What If Naruto Enters Helluvaboss. Special note, this fanfic is written in the masterpiece of Bones Boy 15 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Stryker glared at the group of 4 that walked onto the rough and tumbleweed ranch. 3 more imps he could handle, especially the loudmouthed tall one. He was probably more bark than bite. On the subject of bark, however, came the one individual that could potentially be a problem. That's Luna, she's Blitz Hellhound. The returning child introduced the problem with a blasé wave. She's not just a hellhound, the loudmouth, Blitz, crossed his arms. The hound looked a little grateful at his words before he continued talking. She's our secretary. Then he hugged the hound and ugh, this wasn't a half a family in the making, was it? Stryker would kill them on principle if it was. And, more importantly, my daughter. Hang on there, what? Oh well, it's better than him trying to F the flea-infested mutt. On paper. The beach shoved the loudmouth away and went back to looking at her phone. She growled as her thumb tapped away at it. You effers aren't even worthy of knowing my name. Oh, that makes more sense. Not really. F hellhounds. Stryker hated the DMN mutts. Always flaunting their F-acceptable appearances and getting the good gigs for half the price most imps would ask for. Not to mention their unwavering loyalty to the Gotham supremacist blue-blooded mothafs. He would slip up and drop his cover the longer he hung around these impertinent dumbasses. He went back to fixing the shoe on the ranch's horse. Honest LBR always helped him keep a cool head as he went over his to-do list before a hit. Getting distracted by a few more body bags was. A buzz in his pants had him bite down on a particularly vicious curse. He pulled his phone out and looked over the text from his employer. Call. And this is why he hated taking jobs from first-timers. Stryker growled and tapped a few keys on his phone before he put it up to his ear. This line ain't secure for. I don't care, you are being paid handsomely, are you not? Well, those are my terms. Stryker deadpanned. He let the horseshoe fall into the muck and strolled away from the stable. What the F do you want? We're in wrath. He's here early. Stryker turned to glance at the window of his room in the main house, where his Carmilla Carmine rifle was stashed in its case under his bed. He could go do this job tonight and call it a F day. No, you simpleton. We are all in wrath. Stick to the plan, but if you see me in his company, do not make a move. You realize you being nearby decreases your chance of being accused of arranging this, don't you? Of course I know that, the client snapped. I would rather not be covered with the brain splatter of this cheating imp F limp D BSTRD. I'm sorry, did you say something? An airy, aristocratic butt asked. The client shrieked something incoherent, and the undercover assassin had to cover the receiver lest he draw any attention to himself. Here, there was not enough money in the ring of greed for Stryker to bear listening to this speech any longer than he needed to. Look, if that's all, I need to keep my cover. Stick to text. He hung up the phone and put the hand to his head. Keep the cover, keep the cover. Cover? For your bike? Stryker turned and found the little accident to be staring at him. He chuckled, because of course, the universe flipped him off again. Yes. Yeah, scamp, for my bike. Stryker chuckled and reached out to rub the young imp on the head. He tightened his grip on the kid's head and tilted his head back so he could look him in the eye. You ain't been listening to all my conversation, have ya? No? Oh, so convincing. Maybe he could get a better answer with the help of someone more experienced at this sort of thing. Do I need to talk to your mother? Stryker's eyes narrowed, daring the child to say no. No, sir. Sorry, sir. Ma and Pa just wanted you to come meet Millie and Maximilian. Sent me tea, come and getcha. Sure, why not? Stryker stood up and pocketed his phone. Right this way, princess. Octavia followed along with Itachi as he carried her suitcases while a taller, more lizard-like imp led them down the hall to the room she'd be staying in. Wrath was very different from pride. A waist full of imps and other degenerates, Mother claimed, when they were cordially invited to attend a week-long festivity. Father argued it had its own sense of open beauty to it, and further pushed to allow her to make her own opinion on it. The home they'd been invited to stay in was one of Satan's wives' homes, the most domineering of the bunch if she understood correctly, and it was massive as it was appealing, much like its owner. Governess Lucia greeted them in all of her splendor, and Octavia for the life of her wondered, what kind of ball does it take to help run a ring while totally naked? She didn't dare voice that question. She was curious, not suicidal. Then shortly after brief greetings and introductions were exchanged, she, mother and father were separated when their host asked to speak with her parents alone. In turn, Lucius sent a skittish servant to show Octavia, and afterwards he'd show Itachi to an adjacent servants' quarters where they'd be staying for the week of festivities. They just rounded a bend with the servant a good half-step ahead of them when some pattering caught Octavia's ear. Before she could ask was it the Foundation's age showing, or a renovation of some sort. The imp leading them was bowled over by a little red creature. It was as tall as the imp, but stocky and with stumpy limbs and a weird rounded head. Almost like a circle, it lifted its head up and blinked. Oh? Did it just ask if that hurt? Octavia looked at Itachi, who seemed amused if the gleam in his eye was anything to go by. He caught her stare and let out a barely perceptible nod. All right then, yes. It would appear that this thing just asked if running over the servant imp hurt itself. Ugh, thinking that sentence hurt Octavia's head. It was like dealing with her bodyguard again. Granted, he did teach her a lot about sleight of hand, shady dealings and assassination. And the noodles he got were okay, she supposed. Wow, are you a birdie? What? Octavia shook herself out of the almost fond memories of that week. The little red thing looked up at her with bright yellow eyes and an odd gaping mouth. Was she an imp? A half-breed? Are you a birdie? Can you fly? Do you eat worms like birdies do where daddy lives? Or do you eat mice like some bigger birdies do? Do you sing? Tweet? Chirp? Ooh, can you greet people with a fun musical number? Hello is typically how I greet people, Octavia deadpanned at the last of the rapid-fire questions of this young individual. Itachi let out a very, very quiet hum, and she almost cuffed him. His amusement at her awkwardness would not be forgotten. Miss Satina, there you oh bother. Again, Bernard? Get off your butt and go to your job. You should be at the front door escorting the Gosha Pratt. Another imp clad in a vest and slack sighed as she came towards them from a room just a bit further down the adjacent hall. She came up and put a hand onto the thing's Satina shoulder. Miss Satina, you mustn't run away from your lessons. Awa, but look at the pretty birdie I found, Miss Bianca. Well, isn't that nice? HMO, SHT, hello, princess. The imp, Bianca, quickly forced a too-wide smile and put a hand on either of Serena's shoulders. I see you've met Governess Lucia's daughter. Satina, did you introduce yourself to the princess? Nope, the young girl chirped before she gasped. Octavia's hands were suddenly pulled from her cardigan and squeezed really tightly. You're a princess? Is your daddy a king? Of all the things for a child to ask about. Father was more of a drama queen than a prince, let alone a king of any sort. Itachi let out another soft snort that only she managed to detect. Octavia gave him a look from the corner of her eye that promised a very painful death if he left her to suffer this torment. The stoic little imp merely turned his head away. Traitor! No! Octavia forced through her clenched beak. What she wouldn't do to be out of this situation and in a warm bath. The little girl wilted and the Goshen princess felt a pang of sympathetic disappointment. It wasn't the child's fault that she was so stressed from her parents' failing marriage. She closed her eyes and took a breath before opening them again. My father is Prince Stolas, and since he is a prince, that makes you a princess. Yeah, Mommy had to explain that to me 8 times after I found out that Mr. Satan wasn't my daddy. What? Wow, it is getting so late. Bianca clapped a hand over the child's mouth and winced when it was immediately bitten on. She forced a smile through grit teeth. I should really get Miss Satina here back to her room to let her freshen up before dinner. Come along, Miss Satina. Bernard, get these two to their rooms. Right, why yes, Miss Bianca. The downed imp had hopped to his feet at her hiss. He bowed and pointed down a hall, opposite of the one Satina was whisked down. This way, princess. Though suspicious, they listened and followed the now over-chatty imp down the hall. Octavia furrowed her brow and leaned over to Itachi. Any idea why they got so squirrely? She asked softly. Likely afraid of retribution taken upon their heads for young Satina's loose lips. He smiled slightly and his eyes glazed over as they often did, whenever he seemed to be lost in memory. Children are so rambunctious at times. Do you ha? She'd never seen someone come out of a trance as fast as Itachi. His eyes cooled over and hardened once more. No. Well, all right then. 259, 260, 261. Naruto curled his head, shoulders and elbows towards his knees from where he lay on the solid rock floor. 262, 263, 264. He'd been in this solitary cell for all of 18 hours, 5 of which he'd slept through, only an hour after his arrival. When he was grabbed and escorted out of Elysium by a squad of armored demons, he initially thought it was a trap by some other would-be assassin. The phrase, "by Lucifer's will," had him hold off on retaliatory action. Not out of respect for the short king wannabe. No, it was more for the actual soldiers that likely had orders to get him. His one issue was that they had him drop the obsidian chain he'd carried for the past few days. He kind of felt naked without it. The door creaked open, and he stopped his crunches midway through number 270, body tense and ready to fight, his claws lowered from where they were behind his head to brace against the ground. His eyes peered into the shadow caused by the sudden light. An imp poked their head in and blinked sulfuric eyes. Aha, here you are, he beamed. The door pushed open the rest of the way. As it did, it let out a loud, shrill groan that had him fold his ears back and snarl. The imp cleared his throat and stepped aside. Presenting his maleficence, his revolting, the demonic prince of PR. Yeah, he knows who I am. Shoo, go on, get out of here, kid, you're bothering me. An apple-tipped cane pushed the imp out of the way, and about 500 feet down a row, if that faint grunt and impact was anything to go by. Ah, if it isn't the Lucifer himself. The king of hell beamed. Naruel Zebub, how's solitary treating you, kid? Were they really doing this? Really? All right then. Well, more ramen would be nice. Maybe a shirt and new pants. Oh, and if I could get an actual bed? The floor was not comfortable and his freshly healed wounds were not growing fur back fast enough. Yeah, can't help with any of that. Sorry. Listen, if you couldn't already tell, there's been a small hiccup in your venture into Elysium. Lucifer pinched fingers together as he walked in and examined the cell. No, really? Naruto snorted and went back to his crunches. He was only 30 short of being done. I figured that out when you had me escorted to a cell in solitary confinement. What do you want, Lucifer? I want you to pay attention. So much for those crunches. Naruto sat up, rested his elbows on his knees, and gave the king a flat stare while pointedly turning his ears in his direction. The king smiled. It wasn't friendly or amused. Good boy. Now, our arrangement was for you to survive for 30 days in the pit, and you've got 5 left? Sounds right. Good, because I need to renegotiate. He growled and his tail lashed. It was bad enough he had to go so long without Luna and their boops already. He didn't think he could manage anything longer without snapping. If not for the somewhat steady stream of ramen and running into a familiar face. Side note, it was weird to see Zabuza again, but neat to briefly reminisce about old times in the era of shinobi. Don't misunderstand, he still beat the old mist nin into the ground at the Oni's request because somehow that would help with a plan to obtain freedom. Naruto hadn't really paid attention, mostly because he still had some pent-up irritation caused by the butt's destruction of his ramen. So the acting was a bit of the method variety. He might have lost his mind already. And then where would he be? Not returning to Luna or getting boops, that's for F sure. Hold on, sport, I'm not extending your time. I said that I need to renegotiate. You can use any, if not all, of the abilities available to your reserved form from this moment on. What's the catch? Naruto frowned. Look, you're a mercenary, right? Bodyguard, he growled. Mercenaries in the eyes of Hellborn held loyalty only to money. He was a proud glutton, not a greed native, and his coveted things were simple: loved ones, food, and being awesome. Tomato, potato. Lucifer waved his hand. Naruto growled again, but cut it short when the king continued. Now, being that you are freelance, I'm not going to like this, am I? Well, I've discovered some potentially problematic political discourse. Hold on. Are you saying you want me as your bodyguard? Lucifer laughed. Strong, loud. For a solid 5 minutes. That's actually kind of impressive. Oh no, God no. Lucifer wiped a tear from his eye and blinked. Wait, were you serious? You're going to laugh again, there it is. Naruto threw a hand up and dragged it down his face as Morningstar fell to his back, laughing. The fox fiend rubbed his face and waited another 5 minutes for him to calm down. So, if not for you, which is the only reason I can imagine you to want to even consider hiring me, who am I being hired to be a bodyguard for? That's the appealing thing. I'm not hiring you. This is part of the negotiation. Lucifer sighed. He wiped another tear from his eye. God, that was great. Anyway, you get your fancy shmancy powers back and you bodyguard for a certain individual. At half price. I don't think you understand. Lucifer put his hands together. You are going to protect this individual. At half price. Naruto smirked when Lucifer roared in his face. He let his chin rest on his arms. Thanks, I needed that. I will obliterate. Not here, you won't. B would sniff out your involvement. Smarmy little, Lucifer's nostrils flared. Who the F do you think you are? Naruto, we've met. I could order you. I'm trying to be nice. Lucifer, you want to negotiate. We can negotiate. You want to order me to do it? Naruto leaned forward and smiled with all of his teeth. Order me to do it. Lucifer's smile cracked in his mouth. By rule of sin, Naruto was B's. As king of hell, he can punish Naruto for escaping hell, but he can't explicitly order Naruto to do anything without B's approval. Not to mention, Lucifer had this little thing about giving orders something he was banished from heaven for disobeying rules he didn't agree with and usually left that to Lilith, or strongly insinuated what he wanted. Then there was an arrangement they made a decade ago, to avoid what would be an awkward relationship that a lot of Lucifer's staunchest supporters were weirdly pushing for. It was Naruto and Charlie, people. They were pushing for him and Charlie to get married. At 12. Yeah, Naruto thought it was weird, too. Fine. The king of hell spat through grit teeth. Name your terms. Who am I protecting and why? Terms. Details. Terms. Details or Charlie gets the bill. Naruto smirked. And she'd pay it, too. You. Lucifer pursed his lips and then exhaled sharply. Fine. Fine, Prince Stolas. Christ, did his beach wife put a hit on him during the Harvest Moon Festival or something? That's exactly what happened, isn't it? No. Is your gut reaction to lie blatantly, or am I special? F you, brat. We both know neither of us swing that way. Naruto sat back on his palms as his tail wriggled. All right, I'll do it. Free of charge, too. USNU, Lucifer growled and reached for him with a snarl on his face. His hat and eyes burst into flames as 6 white wings sprouted from his back. What the F is this SHT? A change of heart. F no. The fox fiend's eyes gleamed. I have terms. I'm listening. So, he told Lucifer his terms. The short king wannabe accepted. They shook on it. Ethereal chains powered by hell itself wound around their hands. Demonic deals often got more dramatic the more powerful the dealers were. Sinners could absorb the excess energy, hence why overlords were so powerful with their gathered contracts. For Hellborn, their bodies couldn't absorb the energy, so the realm around them took the damage in their stead. The building promptly lost power, and a good portion of it around them collapsed, as did some of the cliff it was set on. This was going to happen regardless of what the deal was, wasn't it? Shut up, brat. They'd been in wrath for not even 24 hours, and she was going to lose her mind. This is useless. Luna now wearing a ripped sleeveless flannel vest. It was a chilly ring for being a goddamn shithole over her second favorite top, given the first was unusable after her boyfriend tore it off and skirt. With her usual gloves and stockings grumbled as she swiped through her Voxtagram feed. She was trying to find decent clips of her boyfriend's supposed fights in the Wrath Ring's deadliest and most infamous fight pit, Elysium. It was usually an exclusive event for the Wrathborn, so most footage posted online was either with awful shaky cam, a recording of a live television screen, or just stills of blurred motion with some dipshit trying to make an argument about one fighter or another. Or there were the drunk application compilations that the algorithm thought she would enjoy. The first 3 were alright. But after that there were a lot of repeats. Ugh. She'd have to clear her history after this and reconfigure that SHT accordingly. Speaking of SHT being fixed, the accusation of Naruto's account being hacked was firmly shut down before it could become a controversy. That post she made was made private, and his account was locked remotely, likely by B, so she couldn't troll anyone or get further details by asking through that horde of comments. Her posts were always full of thirst comments or SHT slingers, otherwise she'd put something there. Weird that most of the sins or royals that followed her, a phrase she'd never thought would make sense, were more pleasant. Probably because of public pressure for them to maintain some sort of image. SHT, I wouldn't have most of the followers I have if I didn't start dating Naruto. Luna huffed as her cynical self-worth reared its head again. Ugh, she patted herself down for her cigarettes. There they are. Right pocket, above the thigh. Pack pulled out an F. It was empty? Seriously. Aside from huffing the faint traces of violets and almost coconut off of her boyfriend's stuff, which she could no longer do because all of those had been thrown in the wash earlier by Millie's too helpful sister because they apparently reeked. Smoking was the one thing getting her through this shitty month. How did she already go through a pack that she opened 3 days ago? Was that why Naruto's scent didn't seem as prominent on his things? Smoking? Ugh. She pocketed her lighter, crumbled the empty pack up and tossed it aside. Fine. Just gotta get another pack somewhere tomorrow. Luna growled and rummaged into her vest's left pocket. She was too comfortable right now. Blitzo was out after a day of fulfilling some horse-related fantasy, while Fatty and Millie were exhausted from their attempt to woo the latter's parents to Fatty's side of some SHT. Luna was pretty sure that was a comedy movie somewhere, and besides, she had her fallback, Naruto's phone. Now the question is, did she bring it with her outside or? Yes, thank all that was evil, she remembered to grab it. She held to her nose and inhaled, and got vanilla. No. Come on, it's gotta be there, deeper, somewhere. It can't be that faint or overpowered by her scent. She only fell asleep on it like twice. It's been in her pocket since Satan damn it. Luna groaned and crossed her arms on the porch banister. She dropped her head onto her arms and growled into a whimper. No one was around. No one would hear her. She could let one whine out, right? Mistake, turns out, since acknowledging you have bad feelings other than rage or hate tends to bring them all to the forefront. Her eyes burned, her ears folded back, and her tail wrapped around her legs. 4 more days, she chided herself as her forced growls devolved into whines. Keep it together, Beach. You just gotta hold out 4 more days. Just dig through his SHT tonight. Right, cleaned, SHT. Okay, new plan, go into town later and get some smokes. Maybe see if there's highlights of his fights at some bar. Get some candles or something maybe. Just don't cry, don't cry damn it. What the SHT did you do to me? Luna whimpered as she lifted her head from her arms and ran her thumb over his phone, and droplets fell onto its dark screen. She put it to her nose one more time. Still just her scent. She whined and turned around to sit with her back to the railing. DMN but, I miss you so much. A breeze blew into the house and she shuddered. On it was a palpable taste of violets blended with something like coconuts. It wasn't the scent though, couldn't be. It'd be stronger, more clear, less dusty. Loony, Han, Loony. SHT, what the F does he want now? Luna looked up to see Blitzo staring at her, some weird slump in his shoulder and frown on his face. The floorboards creaked and groaned as he walked out to her. She growled when he sat beside her and growled even louder when he wrapped his arms around her. She didn't want his pity. She wanted. A red thumb brushed a tear out of her eye. What's wrong, Loony? Don't Blitzo, she growled into a whimper. before she forced that into another growl. Just don't. Loony, she growled at him again, and he stopped. Luna, is this ... at quotas not a HR thing, right? Oh my I'm not FPRGNNT, you butt. Okay, SHT. I only asked because you've been snappier than usual, DMN. Blitzo huffed. This is about that butt. Don't act like you're not one either. She wanted to shove him off, wanted to bite into his neck, but she was exhausted. Crying was exhausting, who knew? Luna, he's an Royal. Look at where you are right now because of him. You're crying, I haven't seen you cry since. Blitzo looked away. Since the day I adopted you. I didn't, His ego was so infuriating sometimes. Not during the process, no, but I'm sure you heard the matron much better than I did. Blitzo put his hands on her face and smiled at her. She said you'd never amount to anything, and I knew right then that you were the missing part of my life. The little girl I always wanted at my side. My sweet, vicious, apathetic Looney Tooney. Okay, first, Blitzo for making that load of SHT sound somewhat heartfelt. It was so cheesy it reeked, and that's why she was crying again. No other reason. Second, that matron, she's glad that Beach died 3 years ago. Pissing on her grave after a failed attempt to get laid was a great hazy memory she treasured in her life. The new one's pretty chill, according to B, but Luna wasn't holding her breath. Third, it was awfully suspicious of Blitzo to say something heartfelt without it up. I knew that Royal BSTRD would do this to you, wind you up for a cheap and bail when he had the chance. This is why I told you. There it is. Indignant fury built in her alongside the hurt and loneliness that were there. Yeah, Blitzo was her dad and the first one that cared, and she was grateful for that, but he was such a butt. I am sick and tired of hearing you putting him down. Why? She snarled and pulled the imp off to grab the collar of his shirt. What the did he ever do to you, huh? Did he eat your children? Did he kill your family? He broke my little girl's heart. You, Luna snapped and threw her father to the deck. He didn't break up with me, dumbass. Then where the is he, Luna? He's so great, why the would he just up and disappear? Because Lucifer took him, Luna snapped. She felt something in her chest give, and she dropped to her knees. The tears fell freely, and she hugged herself. Her tail curled at her feet. Because Lucifer took him, okay? Because of what he did at the hotel. Because it was against the rules that you don't seem to remember hell has. He rules? Did he? No? No way. No way Blitzo was this naive. Wait, hold on, she did have to get him a book on late-stage hellhound care just so he would lay off on the puppy SHT. Not that it stopped much. Oh my do you even know anything about this shithole? She asked, and she shook her head before he could answer. Of course you don't. He isn't Naruto didn't leave me. He's being punished, Blitzo. He's being punished for breaking the rules, something we've managed to avoid because we don't matter to them. And that's what he's been doing for the past month. Not ducking out on me, he didn't get an choice. So, he's in Pride's prison, Why was he so clueless? No, Luna was so tired of dealing with this. She ducked into her arms and whined. She just wanted a boop. She just wanted her boyfriend back, to hold her and her and boop her whenever she wanted. She wanted him back so much she could smell him. Wait, she could smell him? She really was in the head, wasn't she? Ugh, SHT, she was going crazy, wasn't she? She blamed the lack of cigarettes and boops. Luna. Oh what now? What, Blitzo? She looked up and rubbed the palm of her hand into her eye and glared at the imp that wasn't even looking at her. You want to tell me how him breaking the rules for his own gain is worse than you doing the same SHT? Well, now that you said it, kind of, but, Blitzo pointed out toward the ranch. I thought you said he was being punished. Her ears flicked to the left before she could finish comprehending the words. There was a soft, heavy padding coming up the dirt road. The breeze blew into the porch again and violet and almost coconut. Luna was on her feet and off the porch in an instant. Her eyes had zeroed in on the figure approaching from nearby, tall, hound-like but clearly not one, broad shoulders that kept him from permanent twig status, wriggly tail going apeshit behind him. Not sure where his shirt was, but she was not complaining. She knew that Lichtenberg like patch of peach-colored fur anywhere. She was sprinting before she registered that maybe she should keep going towards him. Something on his shoulder was dropped with a clatter, and he met her about a fourth of the way. She could really move when she needed to up the dirt path. She slammed into him, chiseled, orange, firm, soft, violet, and almost coconut, and her arms wound around his sides as he returned the embrace. Luna. Naruto rumbled her name. Ugh, she missed his voice. She missed his voice. She really was F in the head for this BSTRD. Naruto. She scented his throat, neck, chest, and everything she could reach. Her tail might have been wagging fast enough to snap off. But she didn't care any F-er that would call her soft, for it will get an exclusive hellhound taught lesson in minding their own F business. He was here. Whines and whimpers escaped her throat against her will as she nipped, licked, and scented him. She pulled back and cradled his face, a gesture that he returned with one set of gentle claws on her face, the other sat on her hip. It could stay right there forever if she had a say in it before she looked between his gorgeous blue eyes, both still intact and F-appealing. Why, you're really here, right? I'm not F-hallucinating, am I? No. SHT, his eyes looked wet. If he started crying, she would probably start up again. Her makeup was ruined enough as it was. Thanks, Blitzo. His thumb stroked her cheek, and his breath teased her tongue. I'm here, Loon. Back on good behavior. Thank F. Luna let out an exasperated laugh and pulled his face down to press into hers. Nose touched nose, and euphoria, bliss, sweet F relief. Not enough, though, not enough. Her lips pressed into his, and he returned the favor. His hand fell from her face to join the other at her waist as her claws gently raked down over the marks on his cheeks, to twine in his straw-like mop of hair and then wrap around his neck. Their lips molded over and over, before they parted and panted and whined in unison, while the faint swoosh of her tail matched pace with the thwish of his. I missed you so F much, she muttered as her claws dug into his hair and neck. I missed you, too. He pushed his head against hers and she nuzzled back. His claws flexed into her hips and pulled her closer to him. Every F day. Never happening again, she grumbled. He huffed a laugh. If I can help it. Effin' better. Blitzo watched his Luna get held by the F kidnapper and bury her nose in his throat while he rubbed his head against hers, and it just didn't ignite any of the rage he usually felt. Oh, he was sure it was still there, don't misunderstand, but he felt like he'd be the bad guy if he said anything right now. He didn't know that royals actually faced punishment for SHT. They did. And from Lucifer himself? Yeah, he was going to sit this one out and keep his mouth shut. If he ever met the king, though, he was going to give him words for making his loony cry. Preferably big ones. From a cannon, which is probably the least of what he needed to defend himself. Moxie, Millie, and Looney from Sin Law, if they ever got busted revealing hell to humans on Earth. Unholy SHT, would Stolas actually get in F trouble for supporting him? All for a few shags? What the F am I doing? Blitzo rested on the porch railing and stared at the royal kidnapper and his loony. He championed a big F game about being his own imp and sticking a middle finger to hell's restrictions on imps, but when it boiled down to it, he didn't know what the F he was doing half the time. The fact he got away with stealing from a F Prince of Hell was a miracle in and of itself. The fact they now have a quid pro quo for use of an actual F Gosha artifact was just. It never gets easy, does it? Razor shitter, Blitzo jumped and turned to aim his O. It's just Millie's dad, Jeff? Jake Joe, right, Joe. The farming imp crossed burly beefy arms and kept his eyes out on Looney and the royal kidnapper. A sulfuric eye turned to Blitzo and then glanced back. Blitzo looked back, realized the imp said something, and huffed. I just don't want her to go through what I did. She won't. You don't even know what I'm talking about. No? Tell me, what do you see when you look out at those two? Joe asked. Blitzo deadpanned. Is that a F trick question? He asked, and Joe stared at him. The younger of the two threw a hand out toward the happy candid couple. It's my daughter being drooled on by some perverted rich butt. Fair. Joe nodded. Do you know what I see? Pretty sure it's the same DMN thing. I see a soldier come back from war. Oh, if of course you do. Blitzo rolled his eyes. Joe and Lynn had this thing about war and combat. No wonder Millie was so good at CQC, all Rathians were obsessed with it. Awesome for his business, not so much for his personal tolerance meter. That boy done seen the horrors of war. You can see it in how he holds your pup. How she lets him hold her, he said. Blitzo growled and Joe sniffed. Facts is facts, Blitz. She's a toughin'. That hound o' yours, I won't deny it, I seen many a hound in my time, and the way she carries herself screams F around and fin out, but even tough ones like T be held now and then. I can hold her just fine, Blitzo huffed, glaring out at the two hellborn that were meandering away towards a stable, where they would be out of eyesight. That familiar rage started to build up again. He'd given them enough time to hug and embrace and SHT. Disappearing from the property was not happening. Not like that. Joe shook his head. Let me tell you what my daddy told me. Raisin kids like raisin hogs. Ya can protect 'em when they're small, you can love 'em as they grow. But eventually, you gotta let 'em go course. Then I stabbed him so I could have the farm. But that's not the point. No SHT. He snorted and tried to follow Luna's path before they went around the stable. And he lost them. Nope, he grabbed the railing banister. Okay, I'm putting my foot down. Luna. Hold on there. Joe hauled him back. You go out there right now and I can guarantee you won't come back. The F do you know, Joe? Blitzo wheezed as he was chucked into a seat. Oomph. That's a hell of a arm. No wonder Millie was so good at throwing things. That I've raised 4 boys, 2 daughters, and one turned out to be the latter. Joe leaned against the railing and scratched his head. Ya want some advice? I get the F feeling I'm going to get some anyway. Blitzo rolled his eyes. He pulled himself out of the divot, the throw put him in, and put his hands on his legs. One lifted, and he sighed. All right, lay it on me. 2 things. First, I didn't like the little SHT Mills brought around the second I met him, Joe said. He crossed his arms and glared up toward the room where Millie and Moxie were staying. I still don't like him, and I don't respect him, but that's my right. All right, yeah, so maybe Joe got it. Maybe he finally had some support. I could keel haul that little effer and skin him any time I wanted, any day of the effin' week, but I won't. Just like that, Blitzo's hope for support died faster than a witch drowned. Wanna know why? I love my daughter, Blitz. Love all my kids, little shitters they can be. Joe cracked a small smile. For some Satan-damned reason my baby girl is over the moon for that weak-bodied scrawny boy. If I took that away from her, she'd ne'er talk to me gain. I don't think I can bear that heartbreak. Looney wouldn't. I adopted her, chose her. Blitzo scowled. He tightened his grip on the chair. She wouldn't, not after what I've done for her. Now that sounds like a guilt trip. Joe huffed. Blitzo flipped him the bird, and he rubbed his neck after a chuckle. Listen, I like ya, Blitzo, I do. And I'm grateful for your part in Millie's life, giving her a job where she can kill and fight and get bloody and gritty. And I get where you're coming from, ya understand? I do. But at the end of the day, our opinion is just that. An opinion, and you can't kill that. But you can sink a relationship, that's why it's a boat. What the F does that mean? You push strong enough, and your little hound will push back. Something always breaks in that sort of scenario, ya hear? Is this supposed to make me feel better? He growled, because all he felt was annoyed and pissed off. No, but that leads me to point number 2. Joe grinned. That feller your girl ran off with, ya know who he is. Some shithead that Beelzebub took pity on. What? No. The rancher laughed and threw his thumb over his shoulder. That boy's a semi-finalist in the Elysium fights. He'd eat ya alive, ya mess with them too much. He's a what? Michael of Heaven was a simple creation. His formerly it's before heaven and hell started to adopt the mannerisms and cultures of God's children. Duties were to lead the armies of heaven to glory against the forces of evil. Upon completion of this task, he would relax eternally with the Lord. In the meantime, until the ultimate battle, he would hone his skill and try to save what souls he could with his spare time. His current project? To redeem his fallen brother. No, not Lucifer. Silly. The Heavenly Father had plans for him, so Michael would leave him be. No, the one he was going to save was Rakuell, the fallen watcher. One visit at a time. His last visit had him leaving a lemon with his fallen brother. Now he wished to see how that turned out. Rakuell, may I enter? He rapped his knuckles on the door to his brother's sanctuary that was secreted away from the eyes of others. Foolish Rakuell. The highest of the choir always knew where their chorus members were. The door was pulled open from the other side and Rakuell stood there, nostrils flared and an obstruction of some sort over his eyes. Right, yes, humans called those sunglasses for some obscure reason. As if a glass could hold a sun, let alone two. Adorable were the mortal children of father. Michael. Rakuell. Get Rafael. What? Why? Are you her dear father? Michael recoiled as Rakuell removed his glasses. His radiant red eyes were swollen and crinkled nearly shut. Particles of something crusted the edges. Am I hurt? You tell me. He jabbed Michael with the sunglasses. Get Rafael. Fix me. Yes, of course. Post haste. Of the 5 he'd made to date, this had to be one of, if not the best deal he'd made with Lucifer. Now lying under the stars with his girlfriend on a hill not far from the ranch she was staying at, Naruto rumbled in content as he soaked in the vibes around him. All pleasant, mostly sweet, a sharp vanilla accented by the FBN vibe he missed so dearly. If he were any less experienced with emotive sense, it would be possible he'd get a bit tipsy from it. You've got some new scars. Luna hummed, her claws traced over a not fully regrown patch of peach fur on his shoulder. She scented it briefly and shook her head as she pulled back. Ugh, what the F did you go through? More ninja SHT. No, well, there was one guy. Naruto amended his words mid-answer. She gave him a flat stare and he shrugged. Older, stronger, seemed tired, might have been in Elysium for a while. He practically threw the fight. Right, about that. Luna straddled his waist. Hello, sexy girlfriend. This was a sight he missed, as did another part of his anatomy, and his hands fell to her curvy hips that he loved so much. She put her hands on his cheeks, claws near his spots, and leaned in. He felt his BLD flow shift harder down and the wriggle of his tail started up. You didn't know you were going into Elysium, right? No? The sweet vibes changed to something sour, and the FBN vibe was still there, but it was becoming buried beneath the rank vibes that started to take over. Loon? I really missed you. Well, that was sweet, but the bad vibes were still abundant. Before he could ask what was wrong, she closed the gap and they shared another boop. Vanilla Luna was the best Luna. No, wait. Post-sec Vanilla Luna was still the best Luna. Sharp teeth gently nibbled on his lip and he opened his mouth for her tongue to enter. Her claws traced over his spots. He shuddered and the wriggler went nuts, before she dragged them past to twine in his hair. Loon? He started to ask when the embrace ended, only for her to try and start anew. Nope, he wasn't having it. Her vibes were still tinged by sour and bitter tastes. A lot of it was faint, as if directed inward. He cupped her face and pushed her back. Unholy F, the whine she let out in protest broke his heart. Luna, no. Please talk to me. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. You're back. Nothing should be wrong. She growled, and a hint of a spicy vibe mixed with the sour and bitter ones coming from her before it overcame them. Her captivating eyes lined with tears, and she squeezed them shut as she trembled. I should be ecstatic that you survived the most infamous gauntlet in Wrath. But I didn't even know you where you were until 2 days ago. What? He frowned. He'd thought B would at least tell her something. He'd have to find out when he got his phone back from her. This was supposed to be a happy night, for both of them. He pushed himself up to sit and wrapped his arms around her. His muzzle rubbed against hers and he rumbled. Luna, what do you mean? I knew you, that you'd be gone for a month, in Wrath. But her hands dropped from his hair to wrap around his sides and her head pushed into the crook of his neck. His shoulder started to get wet. He increased the rumble. She whined and licked at his throat as her trembling increased. I thought you were rotting in a F cell or something. Ugh, that might have been worse. At least in Elysium he could distract himself with the fights and occasional food. SHT. He still had to tell Luna that he was only around for a few days before the semifinals got started. First, he had to calm her down. Okay, well, I can't do anything about what happened, aside from chew B out, he said and thought separately. He was going to rip his sister a F new one for dropping the ball this strong. He nosed her pierced ear and kissed the base of it. But I'm here, right now, with you. That's all that matters. I know, I know, she growled. Her claws tightened on his back. Her tail lashed, and she rubbed her face along his neck. Which, cool, he'll just be a towel for her tears. He rumbled and tightened his arms around her. Her claws relaxed from where they rested, and she stroked down his back as her vibes lightened back to sweet vanilla. She leaned into the hug and took a deep whiff of his scent, just as he did hers from atop her head. But I can't. You can't do this again. We won't do this again, if I can help it. He nipped her ear when it flicked by. She grumbled something into his neck, and he playfully rumbled back his own incoherent nonsense. She huffed a small laugh, and he let himself grin. He rested his chin on her silky soft hair and closed his eyes. I really missed you, Loon. I missed you, too, she murmured back. Her vibes started to become sweet again as she nipped and licked at his jaw. His rumble started to go at a constant rate, and, though his back would protest in the morning, he started to drift off into the sweet embrace of sleep. Of course, then the hottie seated in his lap started to grind against him. I missed you so much. Her nips and kisses became more feverish and filled with whines. Luna, he growled. He didn't want Sek to become a crutch, but DMN if he wasn't torn on that idea either. Her lips and teeth toyed with the edge of his jaw, just by his No, wait, that's his spot. He snarled and tore away. Damn it, Luna. She growled back and grabbed his head to force him to look down at her. Which he would do normally if she asked. They snarled at each other, but she beat him to the punch. Naruto, why the don't you want to me? You never said. I have been dropping hints all night, she snarled at him as she shook his face. He tore his head back, and she tried to get out of his lap. Oh no, she doesn't get to run away that easily. He held her hips firmly in place partially so he could get to the bottom of this temper tantrum, and partially so she stopped grinding on his PP and growled at her again. She jabbed him in the chest. Her claws were sharp. It was excusable though. He kind of had a strong grip on her sides. Sweet what the do I have to do? Strip naked and jump you to get the point across that I want to have Sek, because I will. The sun's going to come up and Blitzo will probably flip his SHT again, and I can't deal with that until I. Luna. He growled at her in the way she liked and forced a boop. Good, now she'll listen. He closed his eyes and gathered his thoughts. Then he opened them and growled again. I want to you. I want to eat your cunt. I want to you stupid and make you my beach. But I can't do that out here. Why the not? 1. Look at what we're sitting on. Rocky terrain under a thin layer of grass. Her snarl lessened and her ears folded back. Good. He nipped her lip during the boop. You want to take my knot while lying or kneeling on this SHT. There's a stable. Which leads me to 2. This is private property. I don't need to give the short king wannabe any more reason to keep us apart. He huffed and closed his eyes as he pushed his head into hers for another nuzzle. Bad enough that I have 4 days before I have to go help prep the stupid festival. We just no, Luna whined and her vibes started to sour again. Nope, not happening. He lifted a claw to catch her face and pulled her into another boop. Hey, look at me, Loon. Look at me. He stared her in the eyes, tasted the fury desperation in her vibes. I get 4 days with you. Then I need to wrap up something during the festival. The Elysium fights, she breathed. Exactly. He pecked her lips, and she matched him. She caught his lip in her teeth, and he sighed. A quick growl and twist of his muzzle freed him, and she whined. Luna, I will you, just not out here. Ugh. She scowled at him. One of her claws shot forward and dug into his chest. You are such a pain in my butt. You don't know that for sure. We haven't done that yet. He teased, cheesy grin in place and eyes closed. His smile was met with silence, and he opened his eyes to see her ears straight up and bright red. Oh, hey, the sweet and sour lust vibes were back. Wait, was that considered interest? Yeah, probably. Her cute as tail wagged the longer they stared at each other, and she was quietly starting to breathe. He chuckled and leaned in to plant another embrace on her lips before he growled into her notched ear. There's my dirty little beach. She whined and squirmed on his lap, and he just remembered why he had both of his hands on her hips. He hissed as she ground into him. Her claws latched onto his shoulders, and she pushed up against him. Her lips caught his momentarily before she kissed up to his ear. "Yes, that," she growled into his ear as her tail flicked from one side to the next. "Let's do that." He may have teased too much perhaps. Might as well end his fun before they can really reconnect. One small prank shouldn't hurt, right? Yeah, he should be fine. Mustering the most serious look he could muster, he cupped her face and forced her to look him in the eye. "Luna, I have a room at a hotel up the road. Don't you want to wait until we get there?" She stared him in the eye for a second before her eye twitched. "You have, eh? You are a F-butt." She growled and thumped his arm as he laughed. Clever girl. She figured him out so fast. "Making me think you weren't ready. What are you waiting for? A F invitation? Open a portal or something?" "Well, not if you're going to be like TH. Suddenly, there was an enraged girlfriend holding his head and growling into his face. Okay, he definitely pushed his luck. His ears folded back as she forced a no. This wasn't a boop. This was just an angry and horny hellhound in his face. He wasn't sure which of those he should be more worried about at the moment. "I swear on everything evil that I will castrate you here and now, and then use your PP as a Motha effing toy while you bleed out in front of me if you don't F me in the next 30 seconds. With that kind of encouragement, how could he say no? His modified house portal opened beneath them, and they were deposited onto the bed that was in his rented room in town. She immediately started shucking her vest off. A familiar orange object clattered out to the nearby table and landed at an angle as she tossed the vest aside. He stared down at it for a second, the red light that shone up from beside the camera lens. "How was that? Is that my phone?" "Does it matter?" she asked as she pulled her top off. His brain capacity immediately dropped about 50%. "Huh, was that mean? Oh, hey, Luna's boobs." He missed Luna's boobs. One of his claws snagged onto the piercing in her left NPL to tweak it, and someone growled. Was it him or did she? "Oh, hi Luna's lips. I really missed you. Soft, sweet-tasting lips." "Mwah, what is she doing with her claws near my jeans?" F. Naruto pulled away from the embrace with a sharp whine as his hardening PP was suddenly grabbed beneath his pants. He whimpered and writhed as his girlfriend's hand pulled up and jerked down. The other hand dug into his spot and higher motor functions started to become difficult. Thankfully, the scratches on his spot stopped as she claimed his lips once more. She tugged on his lip for a moment and then pecked his nose. He was on the cusp of panting from the attention his girlfriend was giving him. Then she looked at him with those smoldering, angry, F with me, and regretted eyes that he saw in what few dreams he managed to have over the past month. "You think you're so F cute? Teasing me? Edging me?" Her unoccupied sliced through his already ruined jeans and freed his member to the cool air of his hotel room. SHT, he screwed up somewhere. "No, Loon," he whined as the hand that was jerking him off started to twist into the motion. "Wait, yes. Yep." He was panting. SHT, he'd officially lost control of the situation. "No, you blew your chance at being in control by being bad. Bad boys don't get to be in control." Luna confirmed his thoughts. Her tongue darted out to press against his panting one before she started kissing down his neck. Then her hand left his PP and she pulled away from his face. She rose to her hind paws and repositioned herself over him, so that her concealed snatch hidden along with her juicy rump by that tantalizing to rip skirt was over his face. "Bad boys get punished, so I'm going to punish you." As she descended on him, he knew that he definitely erred, but for the life of him, Naruto couldn't be bothered to figure out when or where. A loud shrieking woke Bea up from the pre-party nap she was taking. It was one she was a bit overdue for. She growled and rolled over to grab her phone to see what was going on that was making her gram blow up. If it wasn't worthwhile she was eating, the DMN thing Tex could beach all he wanted about the phone number replacements he entered. She paid for his DMN phone via VERYYYY's new contract, so he wouldn't have to worry about it and getting a new phone in the morning. "Baby bro is streaming?" "Oh, no, it's probably the pretty pup streaming something." She rubbed her eye with one hand while two of her others unlocked the phone. "Let's see WHO. Oh, yes." Her focus became wholly dedicated to the stream. She licked her lips as she watched the pretty pup roll her hips around on some guy's face. Shame the skirt hid the good SHT from view. She couldn't believe Pretty Pup was cheating on Baby Bro, though. She was pretty sure they had that funky mojo jojo stuff going on with their cute as SHT boops. Yeah. Yes, eat that cunt, bad boy, so effin' bad. B hummed in approval of the dirty talk as she started to tweak her melons with one hand and play with her PP with another. Pretty Pup threw her head back in a way that flicked her hair and made her pierced tips super hot. By the way, Baby Bro should have locked those down ASAP. He was going to be so heartbroken when he saw this video bounce so erotically. Her free hands messed with the phone a bit. B said as she bit on her lip. I'm sorry Baby Bro, but I gotta share this with Ozzy. It's too hot not to. As soon as she did, Pretty Pup's hand latched onto a very nicely barbed, moderately large, deep red PP with a deflated knot at the base. It reminded B of the photo she had saved to her personal account, of a smaller but similarly designed teenage PP. The Prince of Gluttony moved 2 fingers into her drenched lips and used another hand to simultaneously tease both of her tits. Her eyes drifted and she imagined herself in the Pretty Pup's place for a hot second, grinding her PP on this bad boy's face while she played with his PP and whined dirty things to him. Yes. B cracked her eyes open to look at the screen when there was a loud thump on it. Oh, the bad boy got rebellious. She'd ensure he'd be punished for that. This was hot. B was so into this kind of SHT and was now holding the Pretty Pup up against a wall on his shoulders. Yeah, babe, yes. That's a sexy back. With orange and cream marked fur. Pretty Pup clearly had a type. It wasn't a bad type either. B would totally rock Baby Bro's world if he ever asked what. B and her Baby Bro weren't BLD, she hated admitting that. Hated it, but it was hell. NCST was the least disgusting thing that could happen behind closed doors. The real trick would be getting Vortex to sign off on it as an okay pass. His beef with her Baby Bro was something she just didn't understand, but chalked it up to a male thing. Guys were just dumb sometimes. Still, to find another hellhound who was scrawny muscular enough to match her Baby Bro, with the same orange, red and gold locks in a thick mane, and a tail that whipped about like Cerberus did when they got Rand B shot up and stopped playing with herself. Unholy FSHT, is that Baby Bro? A DM popped up over the video from Ozzy. Lordioflust says, where the F are they? Does Lucifer know he's out? Also, who taught him CNL and GS because I want to give them a F medal? This is F appealing. Furthermore, I need that girl's number. She needs to get her likeness protected before the weirdos come after her. And if that didn't convince her, she was watching a stream that wasn't supposed to be there. The next line did. B breathed. She swiped the message away and watched with far more attention. Baby Bro lowered Pretty Pup down and gave her some TLC cooldown, but kept her legs over his shoulders. Whatever they said to each other was too low for the phone mic to pick up. SHT. B's mouth watered as she watched her Baby Bro's tight butt clench while his hips flexed. The Pretty Pup wrapped her arms around his neck and she rested her head to the shoulder, on the right of his face. Nips and whines escaped her as his butt clenched and unclenched with each move, as his large sack slapped into her butt. Her tail whapped into the wall over and over. Yes, do it, Pretty Pup whined and pulled back to embrace Baby Bro's face. He stopped thrusting for a moment and turned to lean against the wall. That was her Baby Bro and F. Both of their asses were firm as SHT. B needed to get a handful of them somehow. SHT, he was thrusting again. She had sight of his PP entering her and unholy F. What the F was that thing pressing into Pretty Pup? A PP ring? Yes, not me, Pretty Pup urged as she cupped Baby Bro's face and mashed their lips together. What? B breathed. Baby Bro nodded. That's right, he had a nod. Well, it was official, she needed to lock in as their first THRSM partner. How would she convince Vortex to make that happen without suggesting a partner swap? She was 85 certain Baby Bro would disagree too. Maybe he would understand if she just joined them. No, wait, that's how she lost Cerberus. SHT. But that PP looked so good. She wanted it. Pretty Pup whined as the mass pressed into her before it. Wow. She took it. Baby Bro carried Pretty Pup back to the bed and turned. Yes, great butt shot, Baby Bro. Thank you before he fell back onto it. Both he and Pretty Pup were lip-locked as he helped her adjust her legs from where they were on his shoulders. DMN, she was flexible. B wanted to know how flexible. Finally, they broke their embrace and Baby Bro's eyes closed as his head dropped back. Pretty Pup's glazed red eyes seemed to catch the camera. She looked right into it as if she knew it was there. She huffed and put her hands on Baby Bro's chest and sat up to gently rock her hips. Baby Bro growled and his hands roamed up her body to play with her cute pierced tips. F yes. Yeah, ride that PP, Pretty Pup. B urged as she rubbed herself. She glanced at the number of viewers. Well, this definitely wasn't a private event. 8 million and counting kind of nixed it from being such and licked her lips. She released the melons and reached back to play with the ring of her butt, but so good to tease. She toyed and touched herself as she watched her adopted brother F his girlfriend to a few micro-orgas before his knot deflated and she climbed off. They cuddled together in a sickeningly sweet way and kissed and B loved it. She wanted to F them both so F much. The vibes would be F delicious. Tex would have to be convinced to let her do this. She'd have to give him something in turn. Maybe a pass with VERYYYY? He always kind of held a torch for her and she'd treat him right, or else. For now, B just had to finish getting off. At least she had some prime material to use. Stryker covered his head with a pillow as moans echoed through the house. His eye twitched all the while. A simultaneous chorus of dings rang out just a scant hour ago before the moaning started. 3 voices in particular stuck out, and he was so pissed that he could identify each and every one. Millie, harder, harder. Yeah, take it, Beach. F, that's a tight butt. Oh, Joe, yeah, cut me. What the F is wrong with these people? Stryker groaned as he pulled the pillow tight around his ears and rolled onto his side. He was going to demand a raise in the morning. He was not getting paid enough to deal with this. If I kill him, Looney will hate me. If I kill him, Looney will hate me. If I kill him, Looney will hate me. Blitzo kept repeating as he glared at the phone in his hand. After the loss of his 2 phones to Valentino, he used the backup of his backup to field calls. The Voxtagram account was not signed out of. It allowed him to keep track of Luna and her perfect guy against his judgment. He followed the stupid F Orangefichstreamen account. Side note, what the F kind of shitty name was that? Was it supposed to be a pun? It wasn't F funny. Foodies were gross. Joe didn't know what he was talking about. Elysium semi-finalist. Yeah, sure. The royal kidnapper was like any other royal, even Stolas. Probably had some guards or something in his corner, keeping him alive between rounds. Anyway, once that alert came up of a new stream, he decided to check it out once all the moans started happening around the farmhouse. Worst mistake of his life. Looney will hate me. I'm gonna kill him. He's gotta die. He's making her cry. He's made her cry. F. Blitzo tossed the phone aside as his sweet Looney Tooney had a very loud orgasm and he buried his face into his hands. He flopped back onto the loned bed and dragged his claws down his face. He felt his chest compact and his breathing increase and his eyes began to burn. He's gonna take her away from me. He grit his teeth and draped an arm over his face. The video on the phone cut out and the silence of the night was broken by several orgas happening throughout the house. Then his phone rang. Oh, F. What now? He grumbled and went over to grab the device. The video was paused as a call name appeared in the top bar. The image it paused on was of Luna locking lips with the kidnapper, her naked body basically on display. He closed his eyes and put the phone to HS ear. What the F do you want? Blitzy, do you need a distraction? Maybe. A vent? F. Yes. Don't move. I'll come get you. Unknown magical source detected in Sector 3. Ignore it. Lucia sighed as she went over some paperwork. She rubbed her eyes and glowered at the small video in the bottom corner of her 6-screen setup within her office. The semi-finalist and some hellhound were streaming a sec tape, and given how popular the semi-finalist was, a good number of Wrath's population was embracing their inner lust. She wasn't surprised her household guest was going to do the same thing with his not-so-secret lover. What? Stella practically screamed about his infidelity every chance she got. Of course Lucia would know he was going to F his little imp friend. The fact she had cameras in his room was of no importance. She had cameras everywhere. Everywhere. At least I'll have enough to cover another conjugal visit for Dave, she muttered, already thinking of a fee to request from Asmodeus for the amount of sec tapes she'd have. You really shouldn't watch this, princess. Itachi, it's just sec. I want to see what the big deal is. Princess, have you ever considered you may not see what the big deal is? Given I've never partaken, no. Right. Well, from one ace to a potential other. Your ace? Yes, and now the entire manor knows. Thank you, good night, princess. No, wait, Itachi, F. VERYYYY's tour bus drove into the Wrath Ring for her requested performance at the coming Harvest Moon Festival special event, and the entire crew sat aboard staring at their phones, including their head of security and VERYYYY's personal bodyguard. Tex frowned as he stared at the text he got from B. We need to talk. He couldn't for the life of him think of what they'd need to talk about. Nothing on his end was wrong, which meant B either did something or wanted to do something that might affect their relationship. So long as it wasn't about ending the relationship, he was pretty cool with letting her do her own thing. Besides, she was a F-sin. She could do anything she wanted, and he really couldn't do anything to stop her. He appreciated that she liked to pretend he had a say in things, but the reality was that he didn't. Honestly, he kind of liked it like that. The autonomy he had due to his job and the many freedoms he had because of his relationship with B were amazing. The sec was great, too, but SHT, she was a lot sometimes. He went with pretty much everything, and it only got weird when she sought out lube or food to bring into the two-person tango. Thankfully, she ate the food rather than anything else. Well, there was that one time she ate him SHT. He was getting strong thinking about it. Maybe he could get her to revisit that brief venture into Vor. They only stopped because the lazy crazy butt that was her little brother had walked in on them during the second time they tried the K&K, when he was halfway in B's infinite stomach. Hence the name Vortex. A name Tex had grown indifferent to, which was really F up in a way. It was a power move that he couldn't rebuff, a method that the smaller slightly and younger Foxfiend used to remind Tex they weren't the same species or on the same level. A fact Tex always forgot whenever he saw the little BSTRD giving B attitude, and the way her honey-sweet scent changed whenever he did. Nope, don't think about it. He growled and shook his head before he looked back at the phone. He sighed and sent a response. In wrath for the Harvest Festival gig, might be a few days. A beat before his phone vibrated again. Text me hotel room number. We are talking tonight. Well, alright then. That's him told. He sent a thumbs-up emoji and pocketed his phone. He didn't need to stress over this. It was probably just another prank idea. That poor kid that got whisked up into B's bro's life was so in over her head. Asmodeus F dammit. Oh. V sounded pissed. Unfortunately not a new sound since she got busted sending dirty pictures to B's brother's phone. An act that was nipped in the bud real fast. The second B received one of those texts. All of the lust demons were on thin ice. He was to an extent, but there were perks to dating the finance behind the talent. Tex turned in his seat at the front of the bus to look back at his boss. She was squirming in her seat and watching a video on Kiki's phone. The others were doing similar things, the usual couples paired up and starting to gently tease each other. DMN, Tex had a great job. He basically got access to live and free pawn most F-ers in hell would pay buckets for. That lucky little beach. V, you've taken bigger cocks. Kiki scoffed. She rested her head on the squirming pop star's shoulder. But them cute tips, though. She's talking about the knot. Coco hummed as she stroked her girlfriend's pee-pee while the latter sat in her lap and held one of their phones up. She's talking about the guy attached to the knot. Josh snorted. He leaned on Ace, who stroked his hair as the white-haired incubus stroked him down south. What the F are you all bickering about? Tex asked. His scarred eye arched. B's sexy little bro posted a sex stream out of nowhere. Check it. Milky came over and plopped in the seat beside him to show the video before he could express his disinterest. His brow furrowed when it started. It wasn't the little BSTRD that was visible first, but it was his girlfriend. It was very hot, he hated to admit. Tex saw a PP that rivaled his in size of what he could make out. Anyway, watched as B's new favorite cute little pup, and she was cute in that sheltered hound sort of way, bit shorter than Tex was into, though got her rocks off, and watched a butt-naked dipshit he didn't like treat the aforementioned pup like a goddamn queen. When it was replayed, against his wishes, he briefly imagined his sweet bee in the cute little beach's place and oh, SHT. I think I know what B wants to talk about. He groaned and adjusted himself as Milky pressed against him to watch the video again. This was going to be a tough conversation for more than one reason. This is what the humans call awkward, am I correct? I don't believe so, Rakuell. It is. It's very awkward. But I don't care. Fix my eyes. The most I can advise is you washing them out. Fix my eyes. Rakuell, mind your tone. Brother Michael, I will slap you with my sword. Shut up. Rakuell, fix me. The morning came to quickly, and a grumbled murmur pulled Luna from her deep content slumber. She only got that much good sleep after she and Naruto or if she had a good rubbing the night before, something she discovered on a lonely hand night a couple of weeks back. It was probably the latter. Her cont was sore, and she wondered if she'd sleep masturbated a bit too strong from the dream she had. Thinking about it was going to get her wet again. F it. The dream started with her and Blitzo arguing, and then her cute, stupid boyfriend showed up because he got out for good behavior, then whisked her away from the stupid imp ranch with prompting to F her stupid on camera in some hotel room, and was hers for the next few days. It was too good to be true. She just wanted to sleep the rest of the week away until she could get her claws on her fox fiend again. She wanted to ride his face like she did in her dream last night. She tugged at the sheet wrapped on her stomach, and that didn't feel like a sheet, it felt like a wrist. Wasat, sek NDS of chicken, done my defy yes. She knew that sleepy mutter. She scented the air. A strong smell of sek hung out over everything, but under that was her scent and violet almost coconut. She tilted her head back and nudged her crown into a strong jawline that rumbled. A wet organ flicked out and tickled her notched ear and it wasn't a dream. Luna felt her tail wag. It whapped into a lean set of thighs that led up into what she knew was a cute, tight butt. She rolled in Naruto's arms to hug him again. He absently rumbled. She loved his rumbles as she scented and nipped at the tousled fur on his neck. Here, 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 mine, 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 a somewhat still sleepy Luna thought as she added kisses and licks to her bout of morning affection. The wriggler started to gain life beneath the sheets, and a growing part of his anatomy that wrecked her in all the right ways the night before nudged into her thigh. Of course, that wrecking happened on his terms when he was being a bad boy. She tolerated it. She deserved some sort of reward for dealing with his twisted sense of humor. A wonderfully wicked idea suddenly sprouted into her head, and she was just sleep-drunk enough to go through with it. She lowered her head away from the jawline she loved to tease so much, and affectionately kissed, scented or nipped her way down his neck to his chest. There was a faint resistance as his arms tried to tighten around her and keep her in place, but she managed to slip through without waking him. The sad little whine that escaped him when she did plucked what few heartstrings she had left, and she almost abandoned the plan. But then his pee-pee rubbed against her stomach as he shifted in his sleep. Mission accepted, no turning back now. She kept descending until she was under the covers and face to face with her favorite. No. His face was pretty nice and his nose had boop powers. Second favorite? No. The wriggler and his butt were tied in that regard. Third favorite? Third favorite. Third favorite part of his anatomy. It wasn't fully irked, just in that almost ready state morning would got it in. But that just meant she would have a bit more time to refamiliarize herself with it. She gently took it into her claws and pushed her nose to the deflated base. Musky violet and coconut was quickly becoming one of her favorite scents. It was so good, she needed a taste. Her tongue came out and brushed against the tip once, twice. Whoa, that's some gratification time. The pee-pee was at full mast, swollen and throbbed in her strained grip. Her boyfriend let out a whimper and his hips pumped towards her. I missed you, too. She whispered around a smirk and guided the fox fiend to lay on his back. The wriggler strained where it got pinned under his leg, but that wasn't her problem. She steadied the pee-pee in front of her and gently pecked the head as she started to slide him. Slowly down, then back up. A prolonged peck of her lips or a dragged-out lick. It didn't take long for Naruto to start to stir. Loon? In lieu of answering, she captured the hot, thick head of his pee-pee in her lips and sucked. SHF, the whine was music to her ears. Luna felt her tail wag and started a slow bob down the pillar in her grasp. She paused only when he lifted the sheet from his waist and squinted at her. "El Luna? Memoir." She made a show of pulling her mouth off, licking her lips as she gripped his pee-pee and nuzzled it with her muzzle. She smiled at him through half-lidded eyes. "Morning, babe." Morning. "Hey." Hi. F. Her boyfriend was an adorable doofus. Big blue eyes stared at her, the haze of sleep mixed with dazed arsel. "What? Can I ask why?" "Really?" She arched an eyebrow as she gently stroked his pee-pee. He let out a sharp whine and the wriggler struggled under his leg. She gave the phallus a gentle embrace and he whimpered. "You don't want it to just happen?" Question retracted, "As you were." His head flopped back and the covers fell. She huffed out a laugh before she went back to rousing out a morning protein shake. "Oh, wait." She gently nipped at the skin by the base to make him hiss and throw the covers up again. "Luna, you're not snapping my collar this time. Just let me work." She pushed her lips to the spot she nipped and kept her eyes locked with his as she did. Okay? Yeah, fine, sure. Just no biting, all right?" His head flopped back again, and she heard him grumble something similar to crazy sexy beach, to which she smirked. Oh, she'd bite him only if she needed to. After all, if she broke her toy, she couldn't play with it anymore. She learned that lesson in the orphanage. Speaking of play, she had a breakfast shake to drink and a chorus to listen to. She closed her mouth around him and started to SCK again. "Luna." Her boyfriend moaned her name. Not some pop star, not the name of a pawn star, he moaned her name. It was so empowering, DMN near on par with alcohol with how intoxicating it was. It made her so wet, so excited, so hey, what the SHT? Where did the covers go? Whoa. "Babe," Luna gasped as she was pulled up by her armpits. Like she was a child. His lips pressed to her cheek and she growled at him. "I told you." Boop. This cheater. He was not allowed to use the sanctity of the boop against her like that. Her growl petered out and he pecked her lips. "I know, and thank you, but I'm hungry, too." He rumbled as he nibbled at her lip. Cheating cute son of a batch. His rumble turned into a growl and her tail whipped about wildly behind her traitor. As his claws teased her now accessible spot on her side, she whined. Naruto, she wanted her breakfast. She earned it, damn it. "Turn around, Loon. You'll get your breakfast." He growled into her notched ear and rolled his hips up so that his pee-pee stroked right past F. That was her CLT. SHT. That felt great. He was not allowed to do that to her ear. It was cheating. "And I'll eat mine." "Fair?" She whimpered as he continued to tease her with nips, nibbles, and gentle thrusts. If what her hazy mind understood was correct, he wanted to 69. They'd only done that once a month ago, before he was taken from her just to try it, and any other time it came up as a possibility that week. They were already moving on to something different. Her tail wagged wildly. DMN traitor. It was lucky he liked it so much or she'd get it docked. Fair. Deep in secreted away chambers, a video played, enlarged on a wall, focused on a certain couple's second round. The Duke, that loudmouth brat, was royalty twice over, and more of a demon than he ever was. The universe truly was ironic, plunged his pee-pee into some hellhound cunt from behind. The beach was bent over the bed they had cuddled on not 3 minutes prior and moaned like a wanton WHR in response to the brat Duke's growls and thrusts. Clearly she enjoyed it, though, as her tail swished from one side to the next, and the Duke would pause occasionally to check in with her. Completely opposite of the situation going on in the room the footage was being displayed in. 2 pairs of eyes watched the scene, one forced by the willing other. As they watched, for the 6th, 7th, 8th, nth time, they also partook in their own carnal acts. Again, one was more than willing, and the other not so. Hell was an awful place at times, to put it mildly. Flesh slapped into flesh strong enough to bruise skin, the base of thighs broken by a heavy set of TSTCLS. A massive, thick hand tugged on the unwilling recipient's left horn to jerk his head back. The receiving demon grunted as the grip on his recently unshattered shoulder tightened. A snarl escaped his lips as hot liquid rocketed into his butt from the equally large phallic growth that already tore it asunder. A few final thrusts determined to hollow him out. Sour news, friend, that ship FN sailed years ago were made before the Lesser Demon was released. Masterful performance, wasn't it? The champion rumbled as he none too gently retracted himself from an overused and what would be described by human doctors as a prolapsed anus. The Lesser Demon's horn was released, and he dropped to the stone ground in a humiliating pose, a dripping butt up while his face rested on the cool floor. Not the first time. The Oni thought as he tried to catch his breath. He winced and shuddered as the hot seed oozed from his exit. This was why he preferred to be atop, but he wasn't exactly in position to make demands. Not yet, anyway. He just had to bide his time, grit his teeth and pray that Sharingan Kakashi's brat was still as unpredictable as he was the last time they met. A thick, capped mass of flesh ran over his wet anus and he shuddered. That's enough downtime. The Duke is still going. I must do the same. This moron takes challenges way too seriously. Zabuza groaned as the champion slid his PP back into his butt. SHT, he wouldn't mind as much if the butt wasn't so against FFR ply and recovery. He huffed and pushed himself back up on his hands before the first move drove his face into the stone ground. That's a good little beach. Tighten around my PP. Oh, great, Zabuza rolled his eyes. Now he's repeating the video's words. Context, douchebag and lube. Use actual lube. Yes, Duke Elzebub. Take my fat bull PP in your tight little butt. Next the champion was going to try and force a fursuit onto Zabuza. If he did, there was going to be serious resistance and quite possibly some biting. There were a lot of lines he crossed when he died, a lot more than when he was alive. Surprisingly, but roleplay with costumes? No, not happening. Not happening in this life or the next. We should start all of our mornings this way. Naruto mused as he sat in a reclining chair on his hotel room's balcony with Luna on his lap, his arms around her waist and his chin resting atop her head. They were just finished with cleaning up after being tied together and now just enjoying each other's presence. Well, he was enjoying her presence, and he was pretty sure she felt the same way given the vibes he could taste. Michem. Her hum had him crack his eyes open and look down. Her attention was glued to her phone and she absently scrolled through her alerts. A lot of jargon and terms he didn't understand, nor really wished to, floated by with each flick of her thumb. He felt the urge to go through his phone, but it was dead when he retrieved it. Which made sense, considering he thought he saw a light on the night before. No matter, he closed his eyes and rumbled slightly. He could just enjoy the slight breeze and his girlfriend's sweet vanilla scent. Oh, SHT. Or not. What, Loon? I think we made a sec tape. What? Naruto opened his eyes and looked back down at her phone, and yep, sure enough, there was his girlfriend grinding on his face. Not a bad angle. Her melons looked great at this angle. Alright, they looked great at any angle. Unlike the stupid PP that ruined the shot for him. Oh, right, that was his. Weird how distance can make you think about things differently. We made a sec tape. Luna repeated, her vibes now a thicker sweet taste in the air, amusement and pride high among them. She tilted her head, rubbed her scalp into his jaw, which restarted his subtle rumble, and huffed. Or, technically you did. How? Your phone, your account. She pointed at her screen. See? The watermark in the top corner is your username. You must still have the streaming quick access active on your phone. But, my phone's dead, he frowned. She turned her head to meet his gaze. Vibes of pity and doubt popped up and left so fast he wasn't sure he actually tasted them, and then smirked. Her claws came up to scratch his spot and rational thought took a back seat for a moment. Hey, Luna. You're so lucky you're cute, she cooed, and then planted an embrace on his muzzle. The assault on his spot came to a stop and she dragged her claws down his muzzle as she looked back at her phone. Your phone wasn't dead last night. I could have sworn your account was locked, but that might have just been a 24-hour thing. Right? Brain rebooting, please hold. Don't worry about it, babe. No complaints on his end for that. While his brain recovered from the quick assault on his spot, Luna leaned back on him and tilted her phone to watch the video in full screen. The tip of her tail wagged and she chewed on her lip. His muzzle was scratched again and another light press of lips was planted. Your butt looks great in this shot. Oh, yeah, holding her up against the wall was awesome. He had to do that again sometime. Maybe without her legs on his shoulders, though. He was afraid to press too strong and hurt her sexy, curvy hips. Well, a really pretty girl once told me that it is a very cute butt, rivaled only by the violet coconut candy guy. You're such a PP. She huffed half seriously with her claws falling back to rest over his that held her while the other set held up her phone. Amusement, serenity, pride, and that sweet FBN vibe still radiated from her amazing vanilla scent. He chuckled and tightened his arms around her briefly, then planted his own embrace at the base of her notched ear. All right, I'll ask, is this cool? He asked, eyes open to look at Whoa. Hey, that's hot. He wondered what his sexy girlfriend looked like as she ground on his knot while he played with her melons. SHT, that felt great, and it sped up his recovery time for round 2. Definitely something they had to repeat. Wait, how many denizens saw this? He wasn't sure if he was comfortable with having his girlfriend exposed like this. Or was that just instincts? Might just be instinct? Luna didn't seem embarrassed. Sniff. Sniff. Nope, not embarrassed in the slightest. Mostly proud. Is what cool? This. Us having a sec tape. You F serious? The second your phone is charged, I'm tagging myself in it. Luna growled and the claws on his wrist dug into his arm a bit. I don't want any F look-alike bimbo out there getting any funny ideas. You don't want to take it down? He asked. Make it private? Why? It's already F out there. All anyone can see are my tips. I think. She pulled a claw from his wrist and traced it along the scrub bar. Geez, that's 8 hours of tape? Weird, 4 hours of it was them sleeping. She scrubbed back to where they were. Yeah, everything else is pretty hidden. My PP and ball are kind of on full display. He deadpanned. Not sexy at all. And it made him a little nervous. Did his TSTCLS really look like that? Was that normal? Maybe he needed to schedule an appointment with Belle. Exactly. It means every wannabe beach or slot out there knows what my boyfriend's equipment looks like. She smirked as her hand dropped to twine with one of his again. She let her head roll back on his shoulder and kissed the base of his ear before she whispered. And they can't F have it. 1. She had to know how F hot it was for her to whisper in his ear like that. If he didn't have a beaner in the next 10 minutes, it would be an honest to questionably omniscient G-man miracle. 2. Was it normal for him to not like the way it was phrased because it was a little dehumanizing, de-demonizing, de-demonizing, de-demonizing? Because he didn't really like it. He understood, don't misunderstand, but he didn't like it. So, it's a territory thing. Basically, yeah. Luna hummed and nipped his ear once more before she looked back at the video. Okay, she had to know he was getting aroused from this. And as much as he'd love to repeat their week before their month-long separation, he did have some things he wanted to do with her today other than sec, obviously. All right. He rumbled and huffed as something amusing came to mind. His lips pulled up into a small smirk. Does that mean it's something else I can put on my job adverts? You know, I can make clones, blow SHT up, and I post amazing sec videos. Oomph. Right, his hellhound girlfriend had wicked elbows. Bad joke. Got it, he wheezed. Put your chin on my shoulder. Is this a setup? Post-sec night pic. Gotta address some followers and diffuse any rumors. Got it. He leaned forward and ignored the slight discomfort in his neck as he hunched to rest his head lower. Thankfully, she moved the shoulder up a bit when her arm lifted to wrap up around the back of his head, which relieved some of the strain in his neck. Her cheek pressed against his, and he rumbled in appreciation. He tightened his arms again and absently scented her vibes. They were tarnished by sour and bitter things like nerves, doubt, guilt. Nope. This was going to be a SHT picture if he let her take it this way. A second before she took the picture, he twisted his head and pushed his lips to her cheek. Her scent became stronger and her vibe's sour tint were overwhelmed by surprise, joy, pride, gratitude, and the sweet FBN vibe. But Luna's grumble was so believable. What with her cute little smile in place, her ears glowing bright red, and her tail wagging into him. She kept her eyes firmly averted and locked on her phone as she posted the picture he ruined. Your butt. He kissed her ear, pulled back and furrowed his brow. That didn't sound as good out loud. What? My butt? She snorted. Yeah, it's nothing special. Your butt is perky and tight. He smirked and his tail wriggled into the chair. Makes me want to just take a bite out of it. You will never let me live that night down, will you? Nope. Naruto tilted her head toward him and they shared a boop. He smiled as she set her phone on her lap and turned the boop into a nice, fun game of tonsil hockey. Needless to say, it was a good morning. The sun crept into her eye, magnified by the window, and she groaned in agony. She pulled her pillow onto her head and peeked through a crack. Ugh, Wrath's sun was unbearable. She pointed her fingers at the window. Isalk ate Snyatruck. The curtains closed and she was plunged back into darkness. Good, she could go back to sleep in peace. Hopefully without the weird butt dreams that watching that live stream last night caused. She got maybe 2 minutes of relief before the door was opened and a servant pitter-pattered in. She cracked an eye open when she felt a presence beside her face. Oh, it was just Itachi. She rolled to her other side and told him to go away, eloquently and coherently. Grhmfoharn. In her head. She told him to go away, eloquently and coherently in her head. It was too early to actually speak normal. She was lucky to know some light telekinetic magic that didn't need heavy thought. Indeed, Itachi drawled. He stepped away and Octavia foolishly, so foolish was she to think Itachi wouldn't take his revenge against her for her big fat mouth the night before. Time to greet the morning, princess. The curtains were drawn open once more and she was blinded. No, why? She groaned and covered her eyes with her pillow again. The morning sucked. Her life sucked. Everything sucked. Her parents sucked the most, though. They weren't even sharing a room, let alone a F-wing in the manor, and they still found a way to have a fight that she couldn't escape. Apparently, her father brought his F-toy imp into the manor, which sullied their prestige further or something ridiculous. Her mother found out and a good portion of the night was spent with them trying to outdo one another in SXL energy. That combined with the confusing dreams she had after watching the stream of her former bodyguard and the hellhound that was way out of his league, she was happy for him on some level. They were pretty cute. Having sex did not leave her well rested. Although, she wondered who the unlucky sod was that her mother bedded. Octi, wake up! Octi, wake up! Octi, wake up! Her thoughts derailed when her room's door slammed open and a sudden weight exploded onto her stomach. Well, whatever hope Octavia had of returning to sleep was dashed once that happened. Side note, she needed to work on some sort of intangibility next. She couldn't breathe with whatever it was that was atop her. Octi, wake up! Octi, wake up! Octi, wake up! I think my ribs are broken, Octavia wheezed. I believe they are merely bruised, princess. Itachi. He was not allowed to be amused right now. She just got attacked, and he didn't do anything. Because he's an imp, right? Whatever. Her F-point stands. Miss Satina, oh, right? That was the name of their hostess daughter that had just assaulted her. Her imp caretaker, nanny, babysitter? Babysitter slid into the room. Satina. We do not barge into princesses' bedchambers uninvited. I'm so sorry, princess, let alone jump on them. It's fine. I needed to get up anyway. She glared sideways at Itachi, who folded his hands behind his back. She sat up and Satina slid down to her lap with a giggle. The teenager glowered at the giggling girl before she smirked and snatched her up. Oomph, heavy. Mistakes were made. Ha! Your face looks like my daddy when he tries to pick me up, Satina giggled. Octavia blinked. Really? Was she the BSTRD child of one of her uncles? None of them were all that physically strong, either. Satina leaned forward and stroked her plumage on her cheek. Soft. I want to grow feathers as pretty as yours. Okay, yeah, this kid, she was growing on her a bit. Miss Satina, get back over he. Despite not being aimed at herself, Octavia flinched at the hiss and tightened her hold on Satina. A swift clatter of footsteps found the imp babysitter on the other side of her door. Wah, Mr. Itachi. There's no harm. Go along and assist the rest of the staff with their duties. I'll watch over the young MDM for the day. But I must insist that you leave. Itachi's hand, still behind his back, twitched, and where the F was he hiding that knife? Octavia added something else to the list of things she needed to ask her enigmatic friend/servant/confidant about. She could imagine the gentle smile on his face. The princess is in no state to entertain visitors other than Miss Satina at the moment. I must pro. Thank you for your understanding. The ponytailed imp closed the door and slipped the knife back up into his sleeve. He turned around and took one step back, firmly blocking the door with his body. He smiled at them before he closed his eyes. Princess, you may wish to use the time to dress for the day. Thank you, Itachi. Octavia smiled at him and then looked down at Satina. Want to help me get dressed? OF. Eyes should not sparkle like that, and children should not have smiles that pure. Yes. Yep. Yes, it was official. If anything happened to this child, Octavia would kill anyone in the immediate vicinity and then herself. As much as Luna would have loved to spend the rest of her days monopolizing her boyfriend in his hotel room, he had stuff he supposedly wanted to do with her. Not of the SXL variety, unfortunately. So, wearing the same clothes as what she wore the day before, she followed him as they walked through the little hick town the Harvest Moon Festival was being set up in. As when they walked down the boardwalk on Earth, he kept a loose arm around her shoulders to stay close. The only saving grace this time was that he wasn't towering over her like he did when they were in their human forms. It would be fine if not for the occasional string of conversation their presence stirred up. They're all talking about us. Oh, cool. He said it out loud. Luna crossed her arms and her tail swept behind her once. So, who gives a F what they think? Fair. He chuckled before he clammed up again. It'd be better if he would growl or rumble or something. She felt all the imp's eyes on her and pushed some of her hair out of her face. F. Why couldn't they just stay at the hotel and F? She didn't want to risk running into Blitzo and ruining her day. Ugh, just the thought of running into him pissed her off. Was there a reason we had to come out here? She growled. If there wasn't, there was going to be an argument. Her boyfriend sniffed the air and then huffed a small laugh. She wondered if that reaction was related to the vibe thing he and B were all about. Before she could ask, he put his lips to her notched ear. As much as I would have loved spending the rest of the week F you stupid. He is not F allowed to growl like that when he wasn't planning to F her stupid. F, it was too hot. I need a girl's touch. Okay, interest peaked. Wait, he said he needed a girl's touch? No, he wasn't seriously using her just for what she thought he was he? She was torn between being super annoyed and really excited, and her tail needed to not wag. Don't do it. Do not wag. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. F trader. You need my help. Clothes shopping. Yes, he grinned. Have you ever noticed how I just wear whatever? Yes. Luna deadpanned. Loose shirts that did nothing to show off his body unless there were without sleeves and shorts that just barely highlighted his cute butt. That's my entire wardrobe. Seriously? How right, his sister was the party animal. An NND for the coming festival, given my stupid F status, and because I made a deal with a certain petty short king wannabe, I need something more wardrobe Y in my wardrobe. Luna was going to get to pick clothes out for him. A house demon. She was going to get to pick out clothes for her boyfriend who dressed like he rolled out of bed late for a class at IU. Golden F opportunity. We need to go to Greed. She started to pull him along towards the ring transfer station. She was going to dress her boyfriend up and every F1 would know he was hers. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Hold up. Naruto pulled her back. His nose pressed into hers before she could protest his supposed protest. Boyfriend boop. Was there anything better? Maybe vanilla lattes? He pecked her lips and then pulled his head back. He held up 2 Sin class tickets. Sin class got them to the ring in question and, depending on the house it belonged to, would cover most if not all of their expenses. Why do you think I didn't find you until late last night? How did you get? Did B? The Lucifer, actually, part of that deal we made. His lip curled and his ear flicked. He was annoyed. Well, he was the one that made the deal with the devil. That's his own fault. Before he grinned at her. I've been reassured that it's good for 3 days. So 1 day in greed, another in envy, maybe a night in sloth. Greed outside of the shithole side of the ring, the upper side where Mammon did most of his business, was a hot shopping area. So many celebrities went there to get top-of-the-line treatment and clothes, and if it wasn't on her dime or lack thereof. Envy, the Oceanic Ring, had several island escapes that could rival some of the exotic vacation spots on Earth, if what she heard was right. Sloth on the opposite side of the F hospitals were the snowy mountain ranges of Sloth. Not ideal, but there were many stories in some of her magazines of couples' ventures to the lodges built among them. FSHT. That was, like, every Hellborn's dream romantic getaway, wrapped up in one trip. What exactly did you agree to? He deflated with an animated groan. After I win the tournament or forfeit the last match or something. I don't know. I wasn't focused on that part. Wasn't focused on? All of Wrath was going to be watching. This is something he needed to know. She gave him an unimpressed stare, and he shrugged. What? I don't care if I win this Elysium thing with skill, or because it's fixed. I have to babysit Stolas during the F Harvest Moon. For F free. Ooh, forced exposure to her to Blitzo's F buddy. Yeah, that sucks. Wow, he really bent you over a barrel. I F no, right? Naruto sighed, and then shook it off by plastering another grin on his face. But that's Saturday's problem. We got 3 days paid on the Lucifer's soul, so let's get this vacation date started. Vacation date? Yeah, Luna's down. She grinned and pulled him in for another boop MHM. Yeah, boops might just be better than vanilla lattes before she broke away and pulled him toward the RTS. Given he was dragging her along, she planned the first day out in her head. The first store they were hitting up was the outlet for stylish occult. She needed new clothes if they were going to be away from Wrath for an extended amount of time. From where she was seated on the bathroom counter, Octavia flipped through her Voxtagram, while Satina got her morning bath with Itachi's help. It took some persuasion on both Imp and Princess part to convince the girl that bathing was not only important for someone of their status. Octavia couldn't believe she actually used those words, but it would also make her feel better. Granted, the argument didn't have to happen if Octavia didn't show off her lack of need for such hygienics royal demonic power for the win, before she learned the child hadn't gone through her morning routine yet. Another reason that the little demoness was clearly the most important and precious thing in the ring, Octavia prioritized her well-being. Miss Satina, please stop splashing. I do not want to get soap in your eye, Itachi patiently said to the child. But the Quackster overlord is going to capsize the envious vassal. Their only hope is to dredge up the power of Leviathan to help them escape, Satina argued, gesturing animatedly at the RBB duck and toy boat in front of her, consequently making more splashing. Octavia smirked, served the imp right for waking her up so ungodly early. I think you mean Lord Leviathan. Itachi corrected her in his cool, collected tone. "'S what I said, Leviathan." "Yeah, Itachi, can't you hear right?" Octavia teased. The imp gave her an unimpressed glance that made her laugh before he went back to carefully washing the young daughter of their hostess. A new alert popped up and tore her eyes away from the bathing duo. Moonlight_howling_666 posted 1 clip. My boyfriend is a literal child. Moonlight_howling_666 tagged Orangefitsramen in a clip. Oh, this should be good. Octavia chuckled. Hey, cool. That's the original stylish occult outlet in Greed. Going there at least once without father chaperoning was on her bucket list. Mother would never step foot in there, so she didn't need to have her on the list. Babe, come on, what the F are you doing, SNRK? Are you hungry, Naruto? The recording hellhound failed to stifle a laugh as she turned the camera from the popular subculture-focused outlet toward the foxfiend wearing a fitted white t-shirt and khaki shorts. The most casual Octavia's ever seen him dressed, considering he wore something akin to fatigues when he was bodyguarding her that was staring with fully alert ears at a musical and lit-up sweets shop. His ear flicked to her for a moment and his tail wriggled adorably for a bit at the last word before it stopped. The music it played was some old club hit she didn't know before it changed to a crunk hip-hop variant of a literal children's song, one with a heavy bass distortion. Naruto's tail wriggled to a non-stop blur before he bobbed his head and made his way to the sweets door. Boomers, bites and biddles. Octavia might actually have to check it out when the song repeated. He pumped his arms to and from his chest, rolled his hips and proceeded to dance into the store. At that point, the hellhound cut the footage just as she started to laugh. Octavia did the same, almost falling from her perch on the bathroom counter. "What's so funny, Octi?" Satina asked. "Please stop moving, Miss Satina." Itachi sighed and scrubbed a sudsy rag behind the girl's ear. "Just a guy I know acting like an IDR dummy." "Oh, like how mommy calls daddy her favorite human dummy with a cute little peen." Itachi started and dropped the rag into the water to make a large splash, while Octavia spluttered out another startled laugh. Well, there's someone else I'll have to bribe to keep that SHT quiet. Lucia deadpanned as she watched the footage of her daughter with the Gojo prince's child and her imp servant. Were it not for the utter professionalism and maturity she'd seen from the latter of the two, not to mention his alignment on a particular rainbow, she'd have been livid he was getting Satina through her morning routine, while her actual caretaker fell back into her old role with other servants of the house. 5,000 monthly should cover their silence. She's only a teenager and it's merely a courtesy, she muttered, making a note in a small black book that had a dumb-looking, average human's picture on its cover. She tapped the face with a claw and her lip twitched before a loud yell of outrage had her return her attention to her cameras. Not Stella. The wife of Payman's heir was still sleeping after their tryst. Side note, that was a freaky chickadee Stolas was married to. If he got her an official consort and just played up life as an airheaded cuckold, their marriage and reputation might be salvageable enough where he could F an imp and no one would care, not that anyone did anyway. Only the most desperate and insecure souls tried to make a big deal out of SHT like that. Alas, neither of the bird brains were that bright, and it wasn't Lucia's job to save their marriage for them. She flipped cameras and deadpanned. Should have guessed. FSHT RPST kidnapping Sonova Stolas. Brace yourself, beach. The imp lover to the idiot prince in question started a new raucous round of sec after he tossed his cell phone aside. Geez, this guy had a lot of issues if he was just going raw like that. Or maybe Stolas was still lubed? Probably the latter, but she wouldn't be surprised if it were the former. At least that wasn't going to kill the prince. Lucia set up the camera to record another easy sum of cash and then continued to go through her property's security. She was just relieved that it was her week off for the month. That beach Azalea could have all the headaches and struggles of wrath. Now, what should I do when I'm done here? VERYYYY groaned as she pulled herself out of bed and the four-armed embrace that was trying to suffocate her. Platonic cuddling was cute and all, but when nature calls, UF answered it. Rubbing sleep out of her eye, she stumbled into her hotel room's bathroom. She dropped her night shorts. Yeah, she occasionally just slept in clothes. People, it happens. Rarely, but it happens. And sat on the toilet. She started doing her business and scrolled through the new posts. Fan thirst, terrible cosplay knockoff. Fan thirst, jealous incel rant. Fan thirst, terrible cosplay knockoff. Fan thirst, some politician trying to deny totally accurate accusations. Terrible cosplay knockoff. Oh, hey, a gender flip. That's new. Still SHT, though. Fan thirst, the little beach of Blitzos that stole the version demon PP posing with him in a cute picture. Fan thirst, hold on, back up. Moonlight _howling _666 posted 1 picture. Moonlight _howling 666 tagged orangeifitchriman. There was a caption along with it. Did anyone else enjoy that surprise last night? I know we did. Bullshit. VERYYYY snarled as she stared at the picture. That cute face should have been buried in her cont in that video that night. Those thick furry lips should be buried in her cheek on a Rathian balcony that morning. And that no longer version should be making her smile wide as her ears lit up and her tail wagged into view. Okay, so that last bit was a hellhound thing and totally irrelevant. Another alert tore her from her thoughts. Moonlight _howling 666 posted 1 clip. My boyfriend is a literal child. Moonlight _howling 666 tagged orangeifitchriman in a clip. Another post? Great. Might as well look at this one and fuel her insecurities and depression even more. SHT. How and when did they get to that side of greed? Was that stylish a cult?
What, was this hound a depressed,
shut-in 14-year-old that never grew up? Well, she was Blitzo's daughter, even if adopted, so maybe. She watched the video and snorted when it ended. Okay, that was cute. VERYYYY smirked, happy it was just footage of B's snack-sized hunk of a brother acting like a dork and not something to really be jealous of. The comments on the clip all had similar opinions, with a surprising amount of thirsty losers expressing disappointment at not seeing the golf hound. With her business done, she flushed and stepped out of her pants, then pulled her top off and her phone was set on the counter. The quick 40-minute shower ended with a great orgasm caused by a self-given flick job and tail-assisted PNTRTN. Alright, she's in a better mood now, not that she was in a terrible mood to begin with, but the point stands that she felt better and she should probably get a head start on the day. She wrapped a towel around her hair and went through her makeup bag to another F-ding. Moonlight_howling_666 posted 4 pictures. Moonlight_howling_666 tagged orangefitschramen in 4 pictures. Asmodeus F dammit, she grumbled at the alert post. Beach needed to cool off on the gram posts already before VERYYYY took it as a personal dig. Rationally, she knew it wasn't, but succubi had their own instincts, to say the least. The version PP that got away was not to be forgotten until she either found a new one. Unlikely that she'd find a version demon of legal age or got that longing for it scratched. Might as well get this over with. She turned and leaned against the sink as she looked at the pictures that were focused on a changing room curtain. The first one was a picture of the cutie wearing very tight black pants with an obnoxious red studded belt, a matching collar and a tight black netting with belts and pads around his arms. He didn't look amused, if the folded back ears were anything to go by, and had a tube of eyeliner in his hand that he held out in clear distaste. It had the caption, "He was almost perfect." Oh, get over yourself. VERYYYY swiped to the next one and snorted. B's little bro had his back to the camera, gloved hands up displaying the rock horns, his head ducked down while he wore a Union Jack patched vest and patched jeans. Clearly he was making a GG out of the experience. The posting hellhound was also amused. The Canadian tuxedo and variants thereof are not his friend. Clearly, she wasn't looking at no. Wait, there was a polka-dotted patch made of different colors on either cheek. That was too distracting from the form and fit. Damn it, she was right. Next came the Foxfiend wearing a tight navy blue t-shirt with caution, choking hazard written on it in faded yellow with an arrow pointing down. Wearing a studded LTHR jacket that had a few pins in the left lapel. VERYYYY zoomed in on the picture to look at them. One was B's house seal, a smiley face with BLD on it, and a one with a spiral-shaped leaf. That last one was weird. Around his lower neck was a chain collar that was held together by a black lock with a crescent moon on it that rested tight against the fur there and wasn't immediately visible unless it was looked for. Covering his legs were washed jeans that were torn and frayed at the knee and held up by a sleek silver buckled belt. The grinning good boy was folding up the sleeves to expose more forearm, and consequently it enhanced the tight fit on his biceps. The caption with it was, "Found a winner. Now I can take him out in public." Yeah. The collar's weird, but yeah. VERYYYY nibbled her lip as she enjoyed the picture, her tail traced around her leg. The last photo actually pissed her off more than the entirety of the slideshow itself. The cutie had his arm around the hellhound and was wearing the last outfit as he draped himself over her shoulders and pressed his lips to hers. The close-up selfie also showed a few dark studs to a piece had been put in his ears along the ridge, while she had a new eyebrow piercing that wasn't there in previous pictures on her account. Its caption made her right eye twitch. "I think I might actually love this doof." She opened up the comments and sure enough at the top was the quasi-platonic cuddle monster she thought was still sleeping in the bedroom. Queen Biatch says F yes, pretty pup. You managed the impossible. Baby bro looks delicious as a punk. B, VERYYYY shouted. She stormed out of the bathroom to beach out her finance and label owner. Yeah. The half-smiling prince of gluttony rolled over to face her, glanced down at her snatch, looked back up and arched an unimpressed eyebrow. And now she's a beach for 3 reasons. Are you trying to top me? I mean, it's cute both the muff and the attempt, but that's not happening. Beach. No. This comment, VERYYYY snarled and pointed at her phone. Want to explain what the F that's about? What? Pretty pup is basically his keeper at this point. And I'm not wrong, baby bro's always been a snack and a brat. Now he looks like a punk snack. A pretty pup punk snack. Not at all the F point VERYYYY wanted to make. The prince of gluttony rolled onto her back and stretched her arms out. Thanks for letting me crash here for the night, by the by. Super comfy and the head was choice. Sorry Tex bailed on the THRSM, but he was kind of mad after we got finished talking. Figured it was for the best to let him cool off. Yeah, I heard. She'd never thought she'd hear Tex yell at B. They were always super cute and sickening. Unless they were being flirty. Then it was just RSNG. VERYYYY sat on the edge of the bed. What was that all about anyway? Oh, B rolled a hand. I wanted to have a THRSM that he wasn't going to be invited to, and wanted to clear it with him. Super weird that Tex was mad about that. The fact that B even talked to him about blatant sec capades where he wasn't going to be involved was downright unheard of in hell. Either you were committed or you cheated. There wasn't an in-between. She knew that better than anyone. So, he got pissed because you gave him a heads up. Nah, it was who I wanted the THRSM with. Like, he gave me the go-ahead, but he wasn't happy about it. Was it with your ex? VERYYYY knew that Tex didn't like talking about it. Probably for the same reason she avoided talking about Morgan. No, but he'd probably be fine with a devil's THRSM. The strong part would be convincing Serb. Baby bro said he didn't take the split well. B hummed. She fluttered up off the bed and landed in a walk towards the bathroom. I gotta shower some shame away. Can I use your SHT? Yeah, I guess so. Wait, who was the THRSM with? VERYYYY asked. B stopped and looked at her, a brow arched in confusion. VERYYYY rolled her eyes. The one that made Tex pissed off. Oh, right, yeah, nah, I got the okay to F baby bro and pretty pup whenever. VERYYYY's jaw popped open as B ducked into the bathroom. A beat passed before B popped her head back out. Hey, serious question, is the water pressure here good for shower powergasms? I feel the need to clean between the folds and low pressure always leaves it a bit black. You know what? On second thought, don't worry about it. I'll just lick it later. VERYYYY failed to form a coherent sentence before the door shut again. What? You are a literal F-child. Luna, now wearing her new pentagram halter top to replace the one her boyfriend had ruined, and new ripped shorts that fit rather well, snorted. Now that she got him and herself some decent casual wear that was stored in her pocket dimension, they had to get him something more formal. In the event his clients ever asked for it, his position as a royal house demon required it, and/or just because she wanted to know what he'd look like in one. Currently, she was watching her boyfriend get fitted for a suit inside the Bauji, Ontario Liverdensai store. She was 75% sure it was a knockoff store. But of what? She wasn't sure, and given her boyfriend was unable to sit still for 5 minutes, it was taking a bit longer than either of them would like. She leaned against the wall and kept an eye on the silhouettes on the other side of the fitting booth. Along with her phone that scrolled through the comments of her posts, she was holding the chain collar he'd picked out and rubbed her thumb along the lock's silver moon. There were a lot of other cooler and more masculine options, but he took the one with the crescent moon with the promise to elaborate on it once they were in private. Their venture in greed couldn't end fast enough. The suspense was starting to get to her. Can't help it. I hate ties. Naruto growled as the elderly imp that was measuring his neck wound a length of tape around it. His tail lashed about as the geriatric muttered something to himself. Her boyfriend snarled as his claws flexed. Seriously, can't you just use the measurement I have for my collar? No. The fur is in way for an estimate and custom materials need details to fit well. Now hold still. Gak, that's too tight, Mothaf. She shook her head and looked back down at her phone when it shrieked. Oh, there's the phone call she expected almost 6 hours ago. With a roll of her eyes, she accepted the call at the third ring and held her phone up to her ear. What? Looney, where the F are you? Out. Luna hummed as she twirled her boyfriend's collar around her finger. The splutter she got in turn made her smirk. Do not F with me on this. I'm in greed. Blitzo. Cool your tips. How did you YRY? If you're just going to spew nonsensical SHT at me while I'm off the clock, I'm going to hang up. Are you with that? I am with my boyfriend. Yes, she growled. She was so sure she got through to him with their last conversation about this. Looks like they were just going to keep fighting about this. So, he took you all the way to greed without my consent. Oh, no he didn't. Blitzo, I am a legal adult. He doesn't need your consent, and even if he did, I'd still go with him willingly, she snapped. Oh, is that right? Well, then you are grounded. Yep, yes, grounded. I'm grounded? Really? She scoffed and turned to glance out at the mob of money-bag-riddled demons that were shopping. All right, fine, I'll pretend to humor this SHT. Oh, no. Grounded. What? Please no, for how long? For till college. For till college, she snorted. Was he being serious right now? For till college, apparently, he was. Blitzo, in case you have forgot, I dropped out of college. Last year. Well, HT, give me a minute, I'll think of something. Take your time. Luna looked down at her nails. Maybe she could push for a trip to a salon next. A roar from the changing room had her turned to look back at the silhouettes, and she sighed. All right, that one was on F purpose. Come here, you son of a bitch. Calm down, sir. I told you to hold still. Blitzo, as amazing and enlightening as this conversation has been, I have to go deal with someone else's idiocy for once, she muttered into the phone. Was that him? What's happening over there? Is he gambling? Looney, don't you dare hang up on me. Bye, Blitzo. I'll see you at the Harvest Moon Festival on Saturday. Maybe. She hung up and put her phone on Do Not Disturb. She walked back over to the fitting room and knocked on the door. Babe, everything all right? It will be once I rip this stab happy mothaf's hands off. It's called a fitting, sir. Sometimes that requires we pin clothes or extremities in place. You poked me in the base of my F-tail 3 times. Once is circumstance, twice is happenstance, thrice is, basically, it shouldn't have F happened. Now hold F still, you little gecko. Okay, well, she should stop him before he gets in trouble with someone. Sin class pass or not, she doubted Mammon would be lenient to him if half the stories she heard on the ride to the ring were anything to go by. Relative to be or not, heck, from half the stories she's heard, he'd probably levy Naruto 5 times as strong just because of his relationship to B. Babe, I need you to see me real quick. Can it wait? I just need to. Naruto, I need a boop. She half lied. She didn't need one, but she was down to get one. Her boyfriend's growl wasn't better not have been aimed at her, but the handle to the changing room clicked and he stuck his head out. Only because of that? She cupped his jaw and pushed her nose to his to cut him off. They held the boop for a long minute. Her claws stroked up his chin and she took his lips with her own, which caused his rumble to start up. Her tail wagged even after she broke the embrace. Her claws dragged down his muzzle, and she planted another embrace on the tip of his nose. You're being so good, babe. So F good. Just hold out a bit longer, for me, she cooed. He let out a hum of agreement, and she gave him one more embrace. Wah, go finish up so we can find somewhere to eat, all right? I didn't empty out the candy store's stock before we started shopping, and I'm getting hungry. Okay. Thank you, miss. The imp within panted as he dropped down from the ceiling. He pulled Naruto back and waved a hand at her absently. Now, please close the door, and you, sir, let's get that last stubborn measurement. Yeah, whatever. Luna huffed and went back to her wall, and phone, and stroking the chain collar in her hand. It took another 20 minutes before her boyfriend was let out and told to come back in a couple of hours. Once he was fit to go back out, they walked out of the store, hand in hand, to find somewhere to eat and kill time. All right, and yes, perfect. A green and silver-suited jester with 4 arms grinned as he positioned his likeness on a mock stage. In front of it were other figures that vaguely resembled his fellow sins, a few toy animals that might have once been based on real creatures, and a few Luigi figures he had found laying around not being used by his employees. No, wait, that implied he paid them decently. Slaves, yes, he preferred to think of them as slaves. Today, we're starting the apocalypse of the communist nations in the world. Ha, ha, Mammon is amazing. Let's give him all of our money, yeah. Sir, we have a bit of a situation on the west side of a clownfish-like demon walked in while looking at a clipboard in their hand. They slowly looked up to meet the sin of greed's owlish gaze, then looked at the things on the desk in front of him. A beat passed. Don't just barge in here, Mammon shrieked as he covered his mock concert with his body. Sorry, sir, didn't see a thing. So you didn't see anything unusual or weird? No, sir. I didn't see you playing with your Silver Age action figure again. Good, Mammon nodded. Knock next time. You don't know what kind of sick and twisted things I could be doing in here. Right, sir. Now what did you need? The Duke of Elzebub has been spotted in the shopping district. He's already cleaned out Boomer's bites and biddles of their strudel and chocolate pretzel supply. Okay, did the payment go through? Yes, sir. Then why would I care? It's the Duke of Beelzebub, sir. Mammon blinked owlishly. The sibling of Queen Beelzebub. Mammon picked at his ear with a finger. The demon sighed. The, quote, little shithiel, end quote, that cheated in a battle of the bands against you because he could, quote, create duplicates of himself without magic, end quote. Oh, him. Right. First we need to get F. Fizzerolli's still out on his contracted break the F. Did I agree to that for? Gotta get rid of it next time. SHT, okay? Mammon stood up and clapped his hands together. Keep an eye on him. I'll head over in, 15 minutes. Very well, sir. The clownfish nodded and ducked out. Mammon rubbed his hands together and smirked. All right, brat, you got off lucky last time. But this time I'll get your likeness on contract. And that beach sister of yours won't be able to stop me. 3 weeks ago. In the heart of greed, blazing eyes glowered out over Mint City. Ice clinked in the near-empty glass of alcohol as it was swirled in a clawed grasp. Lips curled and teeth were bared. A growl shook the room. The shadows within coiled and curled around the heads and pelts of various hellborn that were mounted on the walls. To think, I could be in the heart of Elysium right now. The growl erupted into a snarl and the glass was thrown into the opposite wall. It shattered and spilled as the cause started to tear into the furniture of the trophy room. Who does father think he is, barring me entry because of the whims of that buffoon Lucifer? I'm his 5th son. I need to make a F name for myself, damn it. It was my time for glory. A chair splintered into the wall next, and a table followed. The furious roar that followed made the panes of glass in the window tremble, but they held strong. Once it died down, the temperamental demon stomped over to the last remaining chair and slumped into it. He rubbed his temples and growled when there was a knock at the door. What the F is it? Boss. A shark-like demon with stripes that went down its back cracked the door open. He surveyed the damage to the room and poked his head in further. Is now a bad time? Faye, the entire month is going to be a bad time. He gestured with 2 claws for the demon to enter and grabbed the second glass set beside a decanter of whiskey. He poured a small glass and added some ice as the demon walked over to set a file down before him, a file with a wanted poster on the front. Below the image was a number that was laughable to someone of his stature, but tempting for anyone else. The F is this? He did a double take as he lifted the file in his claws. In the poster plastered on the front was a young squinting canid demon that had a bruise over his swollen right eye, a few missing teeth and a middle finger raised beside the mug shot sign that had NARUTO printed on it. It was old, about 50 years, maybe more, taken by someone in Sloth's pitiful police department. A not insignificant list of misdemeanors for the ring was present beside it, all crossed off and marked as cleared. The request was for death, payment on DLVRY. What have you brought me? It just got accepted at Mammon's Mercenary Operations Requests and Profits Guild. We got a live one. A live what? Emissive eyes narrowed as he set the poster and file down. Do not play the pronoun game with me, Bruce. Source with the coin Shithe says this one's legit. Overheard the pack leader claim he came from the era before. Bruce grinned, all teeth. Apparently, he's something called a Jin Churiki. Did some searches online. It's old. It's powerful. It's a fairy tale. The higher demon scoffed. He sipped his whiskey and gestured to the stool that remained untouched. Yes, my father has quite the fascination with them. His grandmother was one, he claimed. Or the creature within. I don't remember the story. Yeah, but I figured you'd be a little disappointed after you had to withdraw Urk. The towering 8-foot demon held the smaller fish in his claws and slammed him into the wall. The glass of alcohol he once held fell into the chair and spilled. Another hell-shaking growl left his throat and his claws dug into the lesser demon's skin. Do not misunderstand, Bruce. My place was stolen. I did not withdraw, he roared. He was no coward. He was the 5th son of Belief. He was the greatest hunter in all of hell. He took it. The spot your spot was opened for him, Bruce rasped. His hands pried at the claws around his neck. It's in the file. Everything's in the file. If you are lying to me, Bruce, I will kill you. You know this. Why, yes. Oh, of course. He let Bruce drop and stalked over to the file again. Beelzebub. He's of the House of Sin. Fang teeth were exposed as he grinned. He looked back at Bruce, who hacked and coughed on the ground. "Bruce, you've made me very happy. Very, very happy. Today." He'd kept eyes on the prey since it was brought to his attention. It was skilled, yes. It could be called talented, sure. Something no one that watched the Elysium fights talked about was how it was very, very arrogant and lucky. The last fight he saw before the Elysium fights were postponed was dubious. The questionable timing of the blackout and the sudden advantageous turnaround. Either the matches were being fixed in the prey's favor, or something was interfering on its behalf. The unknown variable was as exciting as it was unnerving. He'd thought it'd be strong to get to the prey because of it, but it was surprisingly easy to track it through the Voxtagram account, especially after the sex stream was leaked. It was ballsy to post the tryst to the world, but that worked in his favor. When it happened, he had one of his contacts hack into the phone and install a tracing application. Nothing that would be flagged and notify anyone important, something more like a child's tracker. The sex stream, while amusing to watch, also told him a lot about his prey. It was heterosexual in nature as research into its past had suggested and surprisingly new to intimacy. There was slight hesitance in each movement on both ends. A young coupling? Yes, it seemed infantile in nature and practice. The prey would be easily distracted if its mate was targeted alongside it normally. He'd hold himself above such low tactics. But this was a house demon he was after. The angrier it became, the more unfocused it was, the easier the prey would fall. When he got the alert of them entering the greed ring, he sent a few scouts out. The final kill would be his, but it was foolish to not use his entire wealth of resources in this hunt. The scouts reported in just an hour ago, and he knew the ring that they were in like he knew the back of his hand. He prepared accordingly and kept the scouts out to keep eyes on the prey. A tower near the center of the shopping district was reserved with but a use of his family seal. His most trusted men took up residence in the penthouse while he descended several floors to an empty room. At the window, the silver case he carried was set in front of him and opened. Carmine crafted in an amazing script gleamed up at him, and he ran his hand along the barrel of the weapon. Crown Prince Sergius of the House of Belief. First to kill a house demon of sin, yes. He grinned and his tail flicked around behind him as he settled into his perch. Emissive eyes peered through the scope and sought out the orange cannet. He smirked as he found the prey, it and its mate in the midst of an argument. With this act, I will never be forgotten, and I will prove to father my worth. That wasn't half bad. Yeah. Gonna have to learn how to grill stags like that. Naruto licked his chops and rumbled as he put his arm over Luna's shoulder. So, still another hour to go before we go back to more torture. What do you want to do next? As they walked away from the reasonably priced for greed, anyway food cart selling some delicious and surprisingly legitimate gray stag kebabs that the two of them had settled on for lunch. His right ear kept flicking behind him. Luna didn't seem to notice, so Naruto really tried to ignore it. Really, he did. That itch in the back of his head. The feeling of eyes on him that watched him like he was a bomb about to go off. It might have been literal millennia, an entire lifetime, since he had to deal with those eyes, but he would never forget them. On top of those eyes, he heard the shift of gravel as hooves and feet padded along sidewalks and rooftops. The faint buzz of a radio comm tickled the receptors in his muzzle. One might think that someone wouldn't be able to hear such things in the crowded shopping center of greed, and normally, they would be right. Naruto Uzumaki lived, breathed and died wanting to be Hokage, the leader of a village of shinobi, a dream so strong, so desired. The shadow of it carried over with the few precious memories he retained as Naruelzebub. He kept with his training as best as he could when he was younger, and even when B would restrict his hours training, he would find ways around it. The most recent example of this would be the past month spent in a literal fighting pit, where fights to the death awaited around every corner. Elysium was not meant for the weak-willed. You didn't win a fight in Elysium, you survived. Since his childhood the first time around, Naruto was a survivor. His body may have changed and his morals might be a bit looser, but he would always be a survivor. He was awesome like that, and he proved it time and time again when it was him against the world. Even when he was growing up in gluttony, whenever he was awake to do so, he'd proved it. Right now, as he kept an arm over his girlfriend's shoulders, he hated it. Being measured at the tailor's was akin to torture. A stranger's hands so close to his vital points, wrapping a line around his neck. The paranoia that kept him alive in the last few days of his time in Elysium had him on a hair trigger. He still wasn't exactly sure how he lived against Volos. That Mothaf had size and speed on Naruto's restricted form. But if the Fox Fiend had access to his clones or, SHT, his magic, it wouldn't have been as close. We could go get some stuff for our stay in Envy and Sloth. Luna hummed. Her tail flirted with his just briefly before she pulled her phone out. Might just be better to get stuff there. Might be right. Naruto hummed. A gleam caught his eye from a window of a nearby tower. Just some desperate paparazzi, he tried to convince himself. Granted, not as obnoxious as his last interaction with them in Lust. But then nothing was ever as obnoxious to him as things in Lust were. He looked back down at Luna as she scrolled through various ratings for some of the shops in Greed. I guess then the question is, do you want to shop for winter clothes or swimsuits? Watch my cute and sexy girlfriend model layers of winter clothes I would want to peel away or swimsuits that I would want to tear off. Tough choice. He rumbled into her ear. He enjoyed the delicious vibes of amusement, excitement, her sweet and sour version of lust, and the so lovely familiar, but not vibe that grew thicker as he teased her, and gave her notched ear a quick lick that got him a gentle elbow. Try to keep it in your pants. Oh, sorry. It's just so strong, you know, because I'm the one that always tries to take them off. He snorted. That growl wasn't playful, and her vibes became filled with sour embarrassment, spicy anger, and bitter sorrow. Was that a sore spot? He tightened his arm around her, smile dimming. Loon, you know I don't really care about that, right? Yeah, you've made it perfectly clear. Well, SHT. He up. What did he say? Luna, hold on. Let's just get to the next store. No, what did I say? It doesn't matter. It does matter. He stopped them and turned her towards him so they could lock eyes. The other people on the sidewalk. He looked between the left and right crimson gaze that was locked on him. I said something as a joke that hurt your feelings. What was it? The pants thing? Hurt my F? All right, new F rule. She jerked out of his grasp and pointed at him with a snarl. Don't pull that vibe CRP on me. Vibe C, hold on. He frowned at her. When did you learn about our vibe? Crack. Screams echoed, but half of it was muted. Also, sudden pain. Flaring pain, even. Burning pain. What's up with that? SHT, Naruto roared as he cupped his claws over his left ear. Splattered on the ground was a patch of BLD and one of the 2 studs that were just put in his ear earlier, along with a good chunk of his upper ear. He pressed his hand to the wound, snarled and glared up at the towers around him. The window that gleamed before gleamed again, and he grabbed his girlfriend's wrist and pulled her with him into a run. Come on. Don't just gra. Crack. There was a decent crater in the sidewalk where she had stood just before he pulled her out of the way. They shared another look with one another and then hightailed it up the street away from the gunshots. SHT, for all the towers and buildings in its shopping center, Greed didn't have any decent cover. Where the F were the alleyways and dumpsters when you needed them. It just had to have a massive F department store every 10 feet, didn't it? Crack, crack, crack. This is ridiculous, Luna snarled as they avoided the series of shots that officially cleared the street. You're telling me, Naruto touched at his ear and winced. Nope, still regenerating, and slowly at that. He glanced at his girlfriend. So, who did you PSS off lately? Are you serious? It's called a joke, Loon. He rolled his eyes and his ears perked up as they neared the corner. Come on, around the bend. They rounded the corner and stopped. Not seriously winded, but slowing heart rates after getting shot at was no easy feat. Crack, crack. A good chunk of the corner of the building got blown away and they ducked instinctively. Naruto narrowed his eyes and went up to the damaged portion of the building they used as cover. He kept his back pressed to it and dug around in his pocket. All the times to forget my stash of Niv this'll do. He used his phone screen as a mirror and scowled at the glare. Come on, seriously? Crack. If he'd been any slower in pulling his hand back, his phone, and likely his hand, would be gone. Any luck? Luna asked as she knelt by him. She inched closer to put a hand on his arm and sniffed at his ear. he growled before he put a clamp on it. Sorry. He folded the injured appendage away from her and glared down at his phone. No, glare is too strong. I've got an idea. She pulled her phone out and opened her contacts. He arched a brow at her when he saw his contact name get selected. My doof? The sidelong glare he got for the question was accompanied by a challenging growl. You're a doof and you are mine. Ouch, but fair. All he put for hers was loon. Original? Not really, but it was easy to keep things organized. His phone rang with a haunting bird call that made his girlfriend arch a brow back at him. He grinned and wobbled the claw holding his phone. It's a loon's call. A doof. She reiterated around a smirk before she initiated a FaceTime call. Now answer the FaceTime and hold your phone up to expose the camera. So bossy. He stuck his tongue out at her, but did as she said all the same. He looked through her phone screen and maneuvered his phone so that they could see over the wall. Her fingers pinched the screen a few times before her claw tapped on the building the gleam had been in. There. She frowned. I can't tell what type of rifle they're using. It's Carmine crafted, he deadpanned. She looked at him and he pointed at his ear. This should be back by now. It's Carmine. Terrific, angelic weaponry. She huffed and squinted. Your phone's not capable of zooming in further, is it? Maybe we can get a picture to somebody. Get some backup. A picture? I'll take a screenshot, doof. Excuse me for being technologically illiterate. He huffed. He could make calls, text, search the web, and take photos. What more did she want? Regardless, he pinched at his screen carefully. Crack. SHT, he scowled as the portion of his phone that wasn't reduced to scrap flew out of his hand to the street. Sonova, I had 2 payments left on that thing. Lousy, cheating butt, mothaf. Would you relax? It's just a phone. His girlfriend said as she pocketed hers. You want to lend me yours? He asked flatly. She narrowed her eyes and he nodded. My point exactly. All right, guess I'm going back to old school tactics with this one. Boy, don't I wish I could just be in 3,000 places at once. Don't you mean to? No. He chuckled as he stood up and rolled his neck. It's been a minute since he's made this many at a moment's notice. First, he had to confirm the target's location. He held his hand up to Luna as he walked out to the street. The look she gave him was not an amused one, and he grinned at her. This should work. He just needed perfect. There was a decently sized pack of lumber in the store. He held his hands up as he walked out to the street. A gust blew through Greed. All right, he called out to the sniper. Not that they would hear him, but on the off chance they did somehow, he might as well give them a show. Your shot's really good, super impressive. I'll give up. You can stop wasting bullets and we can talk this out over a nice hot cup of ramen. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 9. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author BonesBoy15 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.